Chapter 996. However, Muyu had no intention of killing Meng Per right now. With his powerful attack, the vitality in Duke Meng's head would not last more than 3 sword strikes. He kicked away the other 2 tribulation passing stage skeletons and rushed towards the skeletons that sealed Meng Gong's body. Bastard! Meng Per realized that Muyu did not chase after her. She knew that Muyu was just bluffing. When she realized what was going on, Muyu was already close to the coffin that sealed Duke Meng's body. She let out a heart-wrenching scream. The scream was so bitter that Muyu's ears felt numb. As Meng Per screamed, more and more skeletons came from all directions. These skeletons rushed toward Muyu. Some skeletons even tried to cover Duke Meng's coffin with their own bodies. However, how could these skeletons stop Muyu? Muyu's left hand roared and emitted a blue array pattern, which transformed into a majestic thunder dragon. The thunder dragon roared in the air and rushed towards the corpses below. The corpses that were in its way were suddenly shattered into pieces by the thunder dragon. Muyu's left hand roared and released a blue array pattern, which turned into a majestic thunder dragon. However, Meng Per took advantage of the moment when Muyu paused to cast a spell. She jumped in front of Muyu and stood on Duke Meng's coffin to protect it. You want to take back your body? Dream on. Meng Per snorted and raised the ghost hairpin in her hand. Old man, you dare to bet your life on this kid? If you protect your vitality well, I won't be able to do anything to you for the rest of my life. However, if you use your vitality like this kid, how long do you think your head can last? Meng Per obviously realized the flaw in Muyu's sword chi. The reason why she could not kill Duke Meng for so many years was because of the powerful vitality in Duke Meng's body. As long as the vitality existed, the twin corpse would not be able to do anything to him. However, if Muyu did this, Duke Meng would be no different from an ordinary skeleton. At that time, she would be able to control him. You don't have to worry about that. Meng Gong gritted his teeth and said. He hated Meng Per to the core. Now that there was finally an outsider who could help him escape, he had to take a gamble. Then let's see how many swords you can use. Go! Meng Per shouted angrily and quickly retreated. The skeletons around her surged towards Muyu. The Ghost Lord twins had already reunited and were rushing towards Muyu. As long as Muyu exhausted Duke Meng's vitality, he would not be able to cause any more trouble. Boom! Muyu swung her sword again. Wherever the sword went, the corpses of the twins were chopped into pieces like tofu. Even the twins of the Ghost Lord were no exception. The sword chi arrived in the blink of an eye and slashed towards Meng Per. Meng Po's face changed. She didn't expect that the corpses would be so weak that they didn't even have the strength to resist. She didn't dare to meet the life force, but now that the sword chi had firmly locked onto her body, she couldn't dodge. She could only use her ghost hairpin to meet Muyu's sword chi. Gotcha! Meng Po's ghost hairpin was also a gloomy magic weapon. It could not resist at all. It was directly cut into pieces by Muyu's sword. This magic weapon was not like the twin corpse which could be reunited. It was completely destroyed. Meng Po's expression changed greatly. Her magic weapon was destroyed, and she was also implicated. At this time, the sword chi was still swinging toward her, but the power was much weaker. She swung a lot of blood in front of her. Only then did she offset Muyu's second sword. Boy, come again if you have the ability. Meng Per shouted fiercely. In fact, her heart was palpitating. Duke Meng was her nemesis. She did not dare to block these 2 swords. However, as long as she could block them, the initiative would be in her hands again. Duke Meng also began to panic. He shouted, I can only force you to use 1 more sword. If you miss the 3rd sword, we will all die. I know what I'm doing. Muyu continued to rush towards Meng Per. The cyan mark under his feet merged into the void array and disappeared. Meng Per saw Muyu rushing over again. She was shocked. She could only retreat again, keeping a distance from Muyu. Now that she did not have the ghost hairpin, the other corpses could not stop Muyu. As long as she kept a distance, even if Muyu swung his sword a 3rd time, she could deal with it. However, Muyu only chased for a moment. Suddenly, he stopped in midair. What? You're at your wit's end? Meng Pa carefully retreated a few hundred meters again. Then, she coldly snorted. Chase. I don't have the time to chase an old witch like you. Muyu revealed a faint smile. Meng Pa wanted to retort, but suddenly, her expression changed. She felt that something was wrong. The void array around her suddenly lit up with countless cyan light spots. These light spots were about 300 meters away from her. Normally, they would not affect her. However, these cyan light spots flickered with a faint, mysterious aura. Then, a thin cyan light ray quickly spread out. All the light spots were connected, forming a cyan cage. Meng Pa was trapped in the cage. There were a total of 81 light spots. They shone with a powerful aura from different directions. At this moment, Muyu was standing on top of the cage. The head of Duke Meng in his hand exuded a powerful aura of life. It merged into the cage's runes. How is this possible? When did this happen? Meng Pa was shocked. She could feel the aura coming from the cage. Without hesitation, she stretched out her skinny fingers. 2 rays of green and red light appeared. Then, she attacked the cage that trapped her. However, the cage only emitted a ray of colorful light. It immediately dissolved Meng Pa's attack. Duke Meng looked at the strange cage that suddenly appeared in surprise. Even he did not know how Muyu did it. Who are you? Duke Meng could not help but ask. I already said that I am an array master. Is it so hard to understand? Muyu had been running away. However, that was actually intentional. His escape route was calculated. Every step he took would leave a footprint in the void. He used 2 rays of sword chi. The first one was to test the waters. The second one was to force Meng Pa to use his method to evade. Then, he forced Meng Pa into the array that he had set up. Meng Pa fell into the cage that was full of life. She began to panic. She was most afraid of this kind of thing. It would cause her great harm. She did not hesitate to shout. She commanded all the corpses to attack the green cage. She was prepared to use thousands of corpses to deplete the life energy of the cage. However, Muyu had already raised the shadow clone sword in his hand again. You have no chance. Muyu looked coldly at Meng Pa. The green sword chi once again bloomed with the fire of life. A dazzling brilliance soared into the sky. The powerful aura intimidated all the corpses. Heaven Sword 9, summoning heavenly lightning fall. All the light spots in the cage turned from green to blue. Lightning overflowed and filled the sky. The 81 light spots suddenly turned into 81 lightning balls. These lightning balls spun in the air and formed a whirlpool. The whirlpool spun faster and faster. Finally, it elongated and formed a blue lightning sword. How can this be? How can there be 81 swords? Meng Pa looked at the 81 lightning swords that surrounded her in horror. The life energy in the lightning swords was extremely vigorous. She was clearly frightened. My sword is not just a simple sword. Muyu casually waved her hand, and the 81 thunder swords suddenly began to stab towards Meng Pa. They were swift and tyrannical, and carried with them the aura of life. Then, they covered all of Meng Pa's escape routes. I don't believe it, Meng Pa shouted. All the blood turned into a blood-colored barrier in front of her. She wanted to block the 81 lightning swords that filled the sky. However, the lightning swords smashed into her blood-colored barrier. The barrier was electrocuted and shattered. Meng Pa's eyes widened in horror. Her entire body had been pierced through by the 81 lightning swords. She looked like a beehive. Meng Pa's mouth squirmed twice. She wanted to say something. However, she did not succeed. Her throat was also pierced. The life energy entered Meng Pa's body. Muyu once again waved his sword chi and blasted Meng Pa's body into pieces. This time, Meng Pa's body did not reassemble. You actually killed her? Duke Meng looked at all of this in horror. His old-fashioned and stiff face revealed an extremely excited expression. His originally cold eyes flashed with excitement and hatred. Back then, he was killed by Meng Pa and was trapped in this dark place for dozens of years. His life was worse than death. Now that he finally got his revenge, how could he not be excited? Muyu let out a long sigh. He did not expect to spend so much effort to kill Meng Pa. This went against his original plan. He originally wanted to let Duke Ming kill Meng Pe. Unfortunately, the people from the Gate of Hell were too cunning. They had already prepared for this, causing Mu Yu to go through a lot of trouble. Mu Yu dispersed the array on Duke Ming's head. He grabbed the coffin and broke the restriction placed on it by Meng Pe. Duke Ming's head quickly returned to his body. At the same time, two legs flew out from the corpse in the distance and automatically reattached themselves. Strictly speaking, Duke Ming was also a member of the Twin Corpse C. No matter how badly his body was destroyed, it would be reassembled by the ghost array. This was why Meng Pe did not crush Duke Ming into powder. That would be a waste of effort. Without Meng Pe's control, the corpses no longer had their original agility and returned to their instincts. Even the Ghost Lord twins were no longer a threat to Mu Yu and were directly split apart by his sword. At this moment, Meng Gong let out a long shout, and all the corpses stopped, no longer blindly attacking Mu Yu. "How do you control the corpses here?" Mu Yu asked casually. "I am a member of the Gate of Life and Death." Duke Ming snorted. The Gate of Life and Death controlled the corpses. Duke Ming naturally had his own techniques. However, Duke Ming still did not have his hands. Meng Pe had left his hands outside. Chapter 997. Although Meng Pe had been killed by Mu Yu, she had destroyed the exit and sealed off the Twin Corpse C. This was equivalent to leaving Mu Yu no way out. Duke Ming stretched his neck, making creaking sounds. His neck had been broken by Meng Pe, but the ghost boundary of the Twin Corpse C had reconstructed his body. It was all thanks to the existence of such a powerful ghost boundary. Otherwise, even if he was a member of the Gate of Life and Death, he wouldn't have survived after being dismembered. Don't worry, even if the exit is destroyed, it will reappear at the beginning of every month. According to the level of Yin Qi here, I think we'll be able to leave in 23 days. Duke Ming calmly said. After being trapped here for several decades, Duke Ming had always been thinking about how to get out. Naturally, he had also figured out the characteristics of the Twin Corpse C. However, Mu Yu couldn't wait for 23 days. He had to find a way to leave this place as soon as possible. Before entering, he had set up a teleportation array outside. As long as he crushed the jade pendant, he would be able to teleport himself out of the Gate of Hell. However, the ghost boundary of the Twin Corpse C was extremely overbearing. It was different from the ghost boundary outside of the Gate of Hell. The Yin Qi here cut off the connection between the jade pendant and the teleportation array, so he couldn't use the teleportation array to leave this place. Mu Yu said in a deep voice, "Do you really think you'll be able to get out in 23 days? Do you think the people of the Gate of Hell won't notice that something happened to Meng Pe? Or do you plan to be trapped here for the rest of your life?" Duke Ming's expression froze. He naturally didn't want to stay in this dark place for the rest of his life. Just now, Meng Pe had been killed, and he hadn't completely vented the anger in his heart. Now that he calmed down and thought about it, Mu Yu was right. If he didn't get out as soon as possible, he wouldn't be Ghost Lord's opponent even if the stone platform was repaired. "Which sector are you from?" Duke Ming had been trapped here all this time. He had no idea what the name Mu Yu meant in the world of cultivators. Mu Yu sat cross-legged in the void and began to adjust his breath. The battle with the 8 masters of the Crossing Calamity stage had consumed a lot of his spiritual energy. After letting the black and white spiritual energy in his Dantian pass through, he asked, "Is this important?" Duke Ming sneered. "Don't think that I don't know that you self-proclaimed righteous sects are scolding us for being unorthodox. If we can find a way out, I think you'll definitely fall out with us." Mu Yu looked indifferently at Duke Ming, who had lost his hands. "I said I would take you out, and I will. I don't care about the righteous sects in your eyes." A hint of surprise appeared on Meng Gong's face. "You think so?" Mu Yu silently ran the falling dust mantra in his heart. Then he said, "Cut the crap. Is there a way to get out of here quickly?" Duke Ming also sat cross-legged in the void. He merged the life energy in his body into his head to make up for the loss of life energy in his head. Then he said, "There's a hidden death energy in your body. Although you haven't used it, if I want to leave here, I have to use it to cover up my twin aura." Mu Yu knew this. When he first returned to the past, he helped Duke Ming escape. However, after Mu Ling obtained the power of slaughter, some of his aura completely changed. But he still couldn't do anything to the twin corpses here. The ghost boundary here was too strange. I will help you, Mu Yu said simply. Although Duke Ming came from the gate of life and death and killed countless people, he was still a man of his word. He knew how to be grateful. In this aspect, he was much better than the people from the gate of hell. Duke Ming looked at Mu Yu. He thought Mu Yu would kill him after killing Meng Pe. He didn't expect Mu Yu to be so easy to talk to. There are two ways to get out. The first is to leave through the stone platform in 23 days. The second is very troublesome. No one can do it. We can only use the first method. After the stone platform appears, they won't dare to come in recklessly unless they are like the old which who refine the blood of the dead. That's not something anyone from the gate of hell can do. So we still have a chance. Duke Ming said slowly. Let's talk about the second method. Mu Yu said, this is the land of extreme yin. It belongs to the extreme of yin qi. Naturally, yin qi needs to be restrained by yang qi. However, no matter how strong my flame of life is, it can only protect me. It can't break this place. If you want to break this ghost boundary, you will need an extremely strong yang qi to restrain it. I don't think you have that ability. Duke Ming said, strong yang qi? Mu Yu's heart skipped a beat. He had a very bold idea. Others might not be able to do it, but Mu Yu had a very dangerous force in his body. It was the black and white spiritual energy. The black and white spiritual energy was made up of pure life, qi, and death qi. It maintained a stable balance. Normally, it would constantly transform Mu Yu's body. Once Mu Yu was injured, his body would be strengthened. If the black and white spiritual energy broke the balance, it would have a very terrifying, devouring power. That was where his killing power came from. However, the black and white spiritual energy was too violent. If it left his body, it would break the balance and devour without restraint. Even Mu Yu couldn't completely control it. Back then, he had to use Mu Ling's sword to barely control it after spending a lot of energy. Yin Qi needs to be restrained by Yang Qi. Yin and Yang are in balance. Why do my chaos Yin and Yang coexist so harmoniously? Mu Yu's heart skipped a beat. Little black and little white drilled out of his hand and swam around happily. They played with each other, similar to the black and white spiritual energy in his body. However, Mu Yu knew that if either little black or little white went too far away, the other would definitely go berserk. Can I also make the black and white spiritual energy start to devour each other when they're separated, but also restrain each other? Mu Yu's fingertips moved, and a green spiritual energy circulated in front of him. After the black and white spiritual energy left his body in a balanced state, it was no different from ordinary spiritual energy. Mu Yu's spiritual energy had always been green. However, once the black and white spiritual energy separated, it would lead to unpredictable consequences. The black spiritual energy would devour everything, and the white spiritual energy would stimulate all the potential of everything before being assimilated. Normally, Mu Yu wouldn't dare to try it. Now that he was trapped here, and as long as he destroyed the twin corpses, he would be able to severely damage the gate of hell. Therefore, he decided to take the risk and try it again. This is the only way. Mu Yu clasped his hands together and then slowly opened them. Cyan's spiritual power gathered in his palms and formed a vortex. The vortex spun faster and faster. Then, it suddenly turned into two different types of spiritual power, one black and one white. The two types of spiritual power began to circulate. The black and white spiritual power still maintained a balanced state and did not separate. Kid, what are you doing? Duke Ming frowned. Mu Yu didn't answer him, but continued to focus on the black and white spiritual energy. As long as he forcefully separated the black and white spiritual energy, the next thing would be troublesome. Let's risk it. Mu Yu gritted his teeth, and the black and white spiritual energy were forcefully separated. The white spiritual energy gathered in his left palm, and the black spiritual energy gathered in his right palm. Suddenly, two completely different and terrifying auras were released from his two palms. This is Duke Ming's face suddenly changed because he smelled danger from the black and white spiritual energy. How did your spiritual energy become like this? Duke Ming cried out in alarm. He suddenly stood up and took a few steps back. Whether it was the black spiritual energy or the white spiritual energy, he was quite afraid of both. Muyu focused all his attention on the black and white spiritual energy in his hands. He couldn't be disturbed during this process, or else it would be very difficult to reverse the situation if he made any mistakes. This time, he didn't have Mu Ling and the Yao Ceiling Pagoda's powerful so close, yet worlds apart to help him deal with the life and death spiritual energy. Balance. Balance. As long as the life and death spiritual energy are kept at the same level, they won't go out of control. Mu Yu's heart was in his throat, and he could even clearly feel his own nervous heartbeat. If he wanted to keep the black and white spiritual energy in a state of balance, he could barely do it. But once the black and white spiritual energy began to devour each other, the balance would be broken. If the balance was broken, the life and death spiritual energy would continue to devour each other, and even he wouldn't be able to survive. Muyu had already landed on one of the skeletons. These skeletons were controlled by Duke Ming and didn't move at all. Even when Muyu flew over, they didn't resist. At this time, Muyu's hands were already imprinted on the skeleton. The black and white spiritual energy touched the skeleton. The black spiritual energy began to devour one side of the skeleton, while the white spiritual energy fully unleashed the potential of the other side of the skeleton. After that, it assimilated into the white spiritual energy. When Duke Ming saw that Muyu wanted to use a strange method to deal with the skeletons, he coldly snorted and said, "Brat, don't waste your energy. The twin corpses here are protected by a powerful spiritual ghost array. Even if you destroy them, they will be restored to their original state. With your strength, you won't be able to destroy any of the skeletons." Although the black and white spiritual energy in Mu Yu's hands looked very intimidating, he had been trapped in the twin corpse sea for so many years. He had already understood everything here and understood the power of the twin corpse sea better than anyone else. The people of the Gate of Hell created such a place of extreme and perfectly protected the skeletons of the twin corpse sea. It was said that even great ascension stage cultivators couldn't destroy any of the skeletons here, let alone Mu Yu. Mu Yu only calmly replied, "Don't disturb me, or we will both die." The black and white spiritual energy in his hands was slowly decomposed. Mu Yu paid full attention to the result of the black and white spiritual energy devouring. He didn't want to let either side have the slightest advantage. This kind of devouring had to be done in a balanced manner. Slowly, the entire skeleton was decomposed by the black and white spiritual energy. During this process, Muyu was very careful. He didn't even dare to shake his hands. He had no choice but to do this because the people of the Gate of Hell dared to place the twin corpse sea here. They must have a powerful method to protect it. And one of Mu Yu's most powerful methods was the black and white spiritual energy in his body. Chapter 998. Duke Ming stared at Mu Yu in shock. The twin of the Gate of Hell that couldn't be destroyed had been completely devoured by the black and white spiritual energy. This kind of devouring was too terrifying. It wasn't something that the twin corpse sea's powerful ghost boundary could recover from. At first, he didn't believe that Mu Yu could do this. But now, he finally understood how terrifying this young man who had suddenly barged into the twin corpse sea was. Mu Yu didn't pay attention to Duke Ming's reaction. The twin he devoured was only at the nascent soul stage. After the black and white spiritual energy devoured the corpse, he clearly felt that the black and white spiritual energy seemed to have become stronger. He pondered for a moment and asked, "If the twin is destroyed, what will happen to the people of the Gate of Hell?" Duke Ming gradually calmed down. The corner of his mouth revealed a trace of mockery. "If the twin is destroyed, then the people of the Gate of Hell will have to suffer the twin's revenge." Revenge? Mu Yu nodded thoughtfully. Ghost Great Wolf was a nascent soul stage member of the Gate of Hell. He belonged to the 39th Ghost Battalion. This time, His mission was to be stationed in Black Bamboo City and lead the self-cultivators to fight against Yaman. His mission naturally wasn't to fight to the death with Yaman. His superiors had already arranged that once the war broke out, regardless of whether it was the self-cultivators or Yaman who died, he had to collect the souls of the dead. The Gate of Hell was one of the 8 gates. In name, they were supposed to lead the self-cultivators to defeat Yaman. But in reality, the people of the Gate of Hell had a clear division of labor. The twin was responsible for killing Yaman, and they were responsible for collecting the souls of the dead on the battlefield with the Ghost Soul Stone. Yesterday, Black Bamboo City had just fought with the Yumming Devil Clan. The fight lasted for 2 hours. Ghost Great Wolf had collected 200 souls, most of which belonged to the Yumming Devil Clan. Only 9 of them were human souls. Yesterday's battle was still a complete victory for the human race. Now the self-cultivators' morale was high. Yaman souls are not as good as human souls. 30 of them are not even comparable to the soul of a cultivator. How cheap! Ghost Great Wolf spat in disdain. He glanced at his twin beside him. The twins were also looking at him expressionlessly. Yesterday, his twin had performed heroically on the battlefield. He was very satisfied with the twins. To be honest, Gueda Hound, I still miss the old you. Ghost Great Wolf revealed a proud smile. Ghost Great Hound was the name of his twin. Unfortunately, at the moment of life and death, it was Ghost Great Wolf who had survived. Ghost Great Hound Soul was still looking at Ghost Great Wolf expressionlessly. Ghost Great Wolf didn't care because the twins' consciousness was being suppressed. They only knew how to carry out orders and couldn't understand what he was saying. I like war. When there is war, there will be souls. Not bad. Although Ghost Great Wolf did not understand the true meaning of this war, the cultivation method of the people from the Gate of Hell was to refine ghosts. The more ghosts they collected, the stronger they would become. What was different from the past was that this time, the people from the Gate of Hell had the right to collect souls. They didn't need to be looked down upon by cultivators. Behind Ghost Great Wolf were 30 Jindan period cultivators. These cultivators were all from other sects, and he was in charge of leading them to fight against Yaman. At this moment, these Jindan period cultivators were looking at Ghost Great Wolf with reverence. Yesterday, Ghost Great Wolf's twin had displayed his might on the battlefield. Everyone saw it clearly. Greetings, Lord. At this moment, a figure flashed by from afar. A middle-aged man from the Jindan period respectfully knelt on one knee in front of Ghost Great Wolf and greeted him. Pangarong, what about the matter I asked you about? Ghost Great Wolf asked lazily. Lord, I have already captured 40 mortals. They are waiting for your orders. Pangarong said humbly. Bring them up. Yes. Pangarong immediately left. Following that, the 40 mortals were thrown onto the empty ground in front of Ghost Great Wolf with faces full of fear. These mortals were of all ages and genders. They were originally farmers from the nearby villages. Because of the war, they fled to Black Bamboo City to seek refuge. They never thought that they would be directly captured by Pangarong. All of you kneel down and listen to your lord's orders. Pangarong shouted. The pressure of the Jindan period engulfed the mortals. These mortals couldn't withstand it. They all knelt on the ground in a panic and didn't even dare to raise their heads. Ghost Great Wolf stood up in satisfaction. He walked among these trembling mortals and came to the side of a brawny man. You, stand up. Ghost Great Wolf said coldly. The brawny man had a tanned face. With one look, one could tell that he was an honest farmer who had been exposed to the wind and rain all year round. When he heard Ghost Great Wolf's words, he didn't dare to resist and hurriedly stood up. Ghost Great Wolf nodded slightly. Not bad. Your soul seems to be pretty good. Then he suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed the brawny man's neck. With a twist, the brawny man's neck was broken. The brawny man breathed his last and fell to the ground. My good brother, you can nourish yourself now. Ghost Great Wolf waved his hands at his twins, and the twins immediately rushed towards the burly man. Ghost Chi enveloped the burly man's body, and the originally invisible soul of the burly man was instantly revealed. He looked at Ghost Great Wolf's twins in horror, and before he could even scream, he was torn into pieces by the twins and sucked into their bodies. "Lord, please spare our lives. Don't kill us." All the mortals were scared out of their wits. They hurriedly knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. They hoped that these high and mighty immortal masters would let them go. The self-cultivators at the side looked on coldly. In the eyes of self-cultivators, the lives of mortals weren't worth mentioning. Even if there were some self-cultivators who felt that Ghost Great Wolf's methods were cruel, they didn't dare to say anything. After all, they were all assigned to be Ghost Great Wolf subordinates. They didn't dare to disobey his orders. As long as they could kill Yaman and obtain soul points to exchange for rewards, the deaths of a few mortals were insignificant. Ghost Great Wolf glanced at the self-cultivators who were watching. He felt a wave of satisfaction in his heart. Before the war between Yaman and the human race started, he didn't dare to kill people openly. But now, the self-cultivators all believed in the leadership of the Eight Gates. Therefore, when he killed a few mortals, everyone felt that it was insignificant. Enjoy the souls of these mortals. Although their souls aren't as useful as the self-cultivators, they're still pretty good. Ghost Great Wolf said to the expressionless twins with an evil smile. But at this moment, he suddenly noticed a strange scene. The twins' originally calm gaze suddenly moved. Ghost Great Wolf sized up the twins. He thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. But when he took a closer look, he realized that the twins' eyes actually had a trace of clarity. It was as if they were gradually recovering their consciousness. How is this possible? Ghost Great Wolf was shocked. He and the twins were connected. He could clearly feel that he suddenly couldn't suppress the twins' consciousness. And at this moment, the twins were gradually breaking free from his control. Impossible. Ghost Great Wolf didn't understand why his twins were acting so strangely. Ghost Chi immediately surged out from his body and enveloped his twins, wanting to subdue them. However, a soul power surged out from the twins and bounced off his Ghost Chi. "I've actually revived?" The twins' consciousness had completely recovered. Their souls were no longer under Ghost Great Wolf's control. The moment they saw Ghost Great Wolf, their eyes were filled with hatred. "Ghost Great Wolf, you've controlled my body for so many years. It's time for me to take over," the twins coldly shouted. The twins of the Gate of Hell hated each other. The one who was killed had a deep hatred for the other. After the twins recovered their consciousness, the first thing they wanted to do was to take revenge. "You're only a soul now. How can you fight me?" Ghost Great Wolf roared. But he also understood that although the twins were only a soul, their cultivation was actually the same. This was the strength of the cultivation techniques of the people of the Gate of Hell. Therefore, the twins weren't afraid of Ghost Great Wolf. The twin cackled. "Your biggest mistake was feeding me 30 souls yesterday. This time, I'm going to take control of your body." The twins had already pounced towards Ghost Great Wolf. Ghost Great Wolf was also unwilling to wait for death. He immediately released his ghost energy, and the two devils started fighting. Pang Gaorong and the rest of the self-cultivators were all stunned. No one would have thought that the awe-inspiring Ghost Dafong would suddenly have an internal conflict with the twins that he was so proud of. Furthermore, the twins were actually able to firmly suppress Ghost Dafong. "I won't let you have your way." Ghost Great Wolf roared in anger. He broke free and landed beside Pang Gaorong. With a punch, he exploded Pang Gaorong's head. The pitiful Pang Gaorong was originally feeling pleased with himself for helping Ghost Great Wolf capture the mortals. He didn't think that before he could react, he would be killed by Ghost Great Wolf. After Ghost Great Wolf extracted Pang Gaorong's soul, he directly fused it into his body. At the same time, he took out a ghost streamer. The aura on his body became stronger. However, he still couldn't win against the twins. He retreated again and charged towards the other self-cultivators who were watching. Those Jindan period cultivators were scared out of their wits when they saw the blood on the ground. They couldn't care less about the others anymore. They all fled in all directions. A few of the slower ones lost their lives in Ghost Great Wolf's hands and became sacrifices to boost Ghost Great Wolf's strength. Damn it, it's still not enough. Ghost Great Wolf's heart was filled with regret. Yesterday, In order to make his twins stronger, so that it would be easier for him to kill Yumon, he made the twins devour souls. Their techniques from the gate of hell, no matter if the twins devoured souls or he devoured souls, they would all be transferred to each other's body. This would allow the two's cultivation to increase to the same level. However, this required time. At this moment, the twins had yet to completely transfer the power they devoured to Ghost Great Wolf. The twins' cultivation was already higher than Ghost Great Wolf's. Ghost Great Wolf never thought that his twins would undergo such a mutation. For so many years, the twins had been under his control. Only when a certain person from the gate of hell's body was destroyed would the twins' resuscitation. However, this was on the premise that there was a problem with the body. If he was perfectly fine, why did the twins wake up? He really couldn't understand. However, the twins were already charging towards him. Their strength was originally at the same level. Furthermore, the twins had devoured the soul sacrifice that Ghost Great Wolf had carefully selected yesterday. They had long surpassed him. He was instantly choked by his own twins and couldn't move. Why? What's the problem? Ghost Great Wolf was furious. He wanted to resist, but the twins didn't give him a chance to. Their strength was originally at the same level. However, because the twins had devoured a lot of souls yesterday, their cultivation was higher than Ghost Great Wolf's. Suddenly, the air was filled with ghostly aura. The fight between the two caused all the plants within a radius of a few hundred meters to wither. The aura's core stage cultivators had already fled the area in fear, while the mortals had all lost their lives under the ghostly fog. Bang! Ghost Great Wolf was sent flying backwards. You could die now. Chapter 999. Gui Dalong's head was separated from his body, and he died in an instant. However, his soul broke out from the top of his head and floated in mid-air. People from the gate of hell wouldn't die so easily. Even if their physical bodies were destroyed, they could still survive for a while as a soul. As long as they could find a suitable body in a short period of time, they would be able to live on again. However, there were many times when people from the gate of hell wouldn't survive so easily. This was because once their physical bodies were destroyed, the twins would resuscitation. The twins wouldn't let each other go so easily. Gui Dalong, stop. Now is not the time for internal strife. Gui Dalong's soul held back his shock and shouted angrily. Is that so? I feel that this is the most appropriate time. Gui Dalong fiercely pounced towards Gui Dalong. The two nascent soul stage souls immediately tangled together in the air. The surroundings were shrouded in ghostly chi, and the entire sky was filled with ghostly wails and howls. Gui Dalong never thought that he would be so unlucky. His twin corpse that was thrown into the twin corpse sea just happened to be chosen by Muyu. In the twin corpse sea, after the black and white spiritual energy devoured the skeleton in front of him, Muyu still didn't dare to be careless. This was because he had to make the black and white spiritual energy in his hands extremely powerful. During the entire devouring process, Muyu was very careful. He didn't dare to let the black and white spiritual energy devour even a little bit of the skeleton. Otherwise, it would cause the black and white spiritual energy to lose balance, and he wouldn't be able to control it. After devouring the skeleton, Muyu merged the black and white spiritual energy back together. It gradually turned into a green spiritual energy and disappeared into his palm. It turned into a pure spiritual energy that filled his meridians. He was surprised to find that the spiritual energy that he had used up was slightly replenished. It seems like my idea wasn't wrong. No matter how powerful the ghost boundary is, it can't defeat my black and white spiritual energy. Muyu said thoughtfully. As for the unlucky skeleton in front of him, it didn't appear again. This meant that Muyu had successfully destroyed the twin corpse. Duke Ming looked at Muyu in shock and couldn't help but ask, "What method did you use? How can it completely destroy the skeletons here?" Duke Ming had been here for a long time, and he was very familiar with the skeletons here. Even if they were smashed into pieces, they would reassemble. This was how the gate of hell protected its own people, but Muyu had broken this common sense. It was completely unreasonable. I naturally have my own methods. There's no need to tell you. Mu Yu didn't want to explain anything. Seeing Mu Yu's indifferent attitude, Duke Ming didn't dare to say anything. At this time, he was also a skeleton. He had consumed a lot of vitality and hadn't fully recovered yet. If they really fought, he wouldn't be a match for Mu Yu. Thinking of this, he jumped back a little, not wanting to get too close to Mu Yu. Mu Yu said indifferently, "Do you people from the Gate of Life and Death not trust your companions?" Duke Ming was quite embarrassed by Mu Yu's words, but he still said, "I have to be careful." Mu Yu didn't care about Duke Ming's attitude. He thought of something and asked, "What do you mean by revenge?" Duke Ming composed himself and then said, "If the twin corpse of the people from the Gate of Hell is destroyed, the twin soul in the Gate of Hell will resonate. They may fight, or they may temporarily compromise. This depends on the relationship between the people from the Gate of Hell and the twin soul. It varies from person to person, but most of them will fight among themselves." Fight among themselves? That's what I want to see the most. Mu Yu pondered. Mu Yu was very careful when he devoured. He had to ensure that the whole process didn't go out of control, so it took him almost an hour to devour a corpse. There are thousands of corpses here, and Mu Yu couldn't devour them one by one. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to devour them all even if he wanted to. He turned his gaze to the Ghost Lord twins and the other 6 tribulation stage corpses. It seemed that he had to destroy these corpses first. There are thousands of corpses here. They're the corpses of the twins from the Gate of Hell who have been here for tens of thousands of years. Why are there only 7 tribulation stage corpses? Mu Yu asked, puzzled. Duke Ming explained, "It's impossible for corpses to preserve their strength forever. Once the people from the Gate of Hell outside die, the corpses here will gradually dissipate and turn into corpses without cultivation. There are only 8 tribulation stage cultivators in the Gate of Hell now. Since Meng Pa is dead, there are only 7 left." "I see. Forget it. I'll deal with these 7 twins first. As for that so-called Ghost Lord, let's see if you like the surprise I prepared for you." Mu Yu walked towards the Ghost Lord twins again. The Ghost Lord twins were also under the control of Duke Ming, so they didn't attack Mu Yu. Beside the bridge of helplessness in the Gate of Hell, a ghastly figure stood there. This person's aura was incomparably cold, like an ice block that wouldn't melt for 1,000 years. No matter who looked at him, they would be able to feel the bone-chilling coldness from his body. It was as if their entire soul would be frozen. This person was the Ghost Lord from the Gate of Hell. His cultivation was at the 9th heavenly layer of the tribulation stage. He was an expert who was half a step into the Great Ascension stage, Ghost Cold. There were 2 people standing next to Ghost Lord. One was the fantasy sound at the 4th heavenly layer of the tribulation stage, and the other was the ghost and shadow at the 5th heavenly layer of the tribulation stage. Fantasy sound respectfully lowered his head and said, "Ghost Lord, Meng Pa has already gone in to capture that person." Ghost Lord coldly said, "Have you investigated the identity of the person who entered the twin corpse sea?" Fantasy sound said, "That person is wearing the clothes of the Stargate. He claims to be Tian Xingzhou from the Stargate." Tian Xingzhou? Tian Xingzhou wouldn't come to the Gate of Hell for no reason. You have all been deceived. This person must be Mu Yu's formation. I didn't expect the news from the Ghost Realm's child to be true. Mu Yu really came here. Ghost Lord narrowed his eyes. His eyes looked like cold hooks. It was as if anyone's soul would be taken away by these cold hooks in an instant. Fantasy Sound's expression changed slightly. He quickly said, "Ghost Lord, please forgive this subordinate's ignorance." Ghost Lord coldly snorted, then asked, "How long has Meng Pa been in there?" Fantasy Sound said, "Almost 2 hours. She also destroyed the exit. It seems that she intends to trap Mu Yu inside to prevent Mu Yu from escaping before Ghost Lord arrives." Ghost and Shadow on the side said, "Ghost Lord, the twin corpse, can't even be broken by a Great Ascension stage cultivator, let alone a crossing tribulation stage cultivator. We don't need to worry about anything. Duke Ming has already taken measures against Duke Ming under our reminder. She doesn't need to worry about Duke Ming. She can also use Extreme Een to control the twins. Mu Yu won't be able to escape this time." Ghost Lord nodded slightly. "That's for the best. We can't let Muyu enter and leave our territory as he pleases. Gui Mingzi continued to ask, Ghost Lord, should we inform the people of the Sanchong Palace? Ghost Lord sneered, Not yet. Wait until Mengpa captures Muyu. I'll personally take Muyu to the Sanchong Palace to see the Lord. However, at this moment, Ghost Lord's expression suddenly changed. What's wrong? Fantasy Sound and Ghost and Shadow were slightly stunned. Not good. The twin corpse, C, is mutating. Ghost Lord was furious. He could clearly feel the twins in his body, gradually resuscitation. They even began to stir, wanting to fight for control of the body with him. Repair the twin corpse, C's passage. A black gas appeared in Ghost Lord's hand, and his figure was already rushing toward the bridge of helplessness. However, his figure was only halfway there when he suddenly stopped. A trace of panic appeared on his face, and he immediately sat cross-legged on the ground. At the same time, the twins in his body had already broken free of his control and wanted to drill out of his body. Fantasy Sound and Ghost and Shadow looked at each other. They didn't understand why Ghost Lord, who was already half a step into the great vehicle stage, would suddenly have such an abnormal situation. Ghost and Shadow stepped forward and asked, Ghost Lord, what's wrong with you? However, Ghost Lord didn't respond. The veins on his face bulged, as if he was desperately trembling with someone. A monstrous ghost aura emerged from his body, instantly covering him. The powerful aura forced Ghost and Shadow and Fantasy Sound to retreat. Ghost Lord, what happened? Fantasy Sound asked in surprise. Her demonic eyes revealed a puzzled expression. Ghost and Shadow wanted to approach Ghost Lord's ghost aura, but Ghost Lord's strength was far above his, so he couldn't get close. He pondered for a moment and asked, Fantasy Sound, how long will it take to repair the bridge of helplessness to the twin corpse C? Mengpa has always been in charge of the bridge of helplessness. If I were to repair it, it would take at least 6 hours. Fantasy Sound immediately said, Hurry up and repair it. Muyu did something to the twin corpse C. There's a problem with the twins. Ghost Lord's sinister voice sounded from the thick ghost fog. A problem with the twins? Fantasy Sound and Ghost and Shadow looked at each other in shock. Inside the twin corpse C, Duke Ming was already quite shocked. Muyu had once again completely destroyed a twin, and this time, it was the twin of the gate of hell. Where did such a terrifying person come from? Duke Ming's mind was filled with a myriad of thoughts. He didn't even dare to approach Muyu, for fear that he would be directly devoured by the black and white spiritual energy in Muyu's hands. Muyu slowly devoured the Ghost Lord twins. He was surprised to find that after devouring the Ghost Lord twins, the black and white spiritual energy had merged into one. It had actually gathered into an incomparably large amount of pure spiritual energy in his hands. This spiritual energy was the most primitive form of spiritual energy without any impurities. It could be completely absorbed into Muyu's body to refine his body and strengthen his cultivation. If he could refine this spiritual energy, then Muyu believed that his cultivation would definitely rise to another level. Without any hesitation, Muyu began to absorb this powerful spiritual energy into his body. He began to turn it into his own body and began to cultivate as if there was no one around him. Duke Ming saw that Muyu was actually cultivating as if nothing had happened, and a trace of strangeness flashed through his heart. He understood his own identity. He was a member of the gate of life and death. Just like the gate of hell, he was spurned by everyone in the cultivation world. Their cooperation was only temporary. Once this young man's cultivation rose again, perhaps he, a member of the gate of life and death who had lost both his hands, would be dispensable. At that time, it would be as easy as flipping his hand for Muyu to kill him. Chapter 1000. Duke Ming was hesitant. He could kill 1,000 people to extract the fire of life to temper his body, which showed that he was not a benevolent person. Now Muyu was cultivating in front of him without a trace of vigilance. In this case, as long as he intervened, he would definitely be able to seriously injure or even kill him. But he also had his own principles of doing things. Muyu helped him get rid of the control of Meng Pa, which was a rebirth for him. Although he didn't have a good heart, he was a person who knew how to repay kindness. He didn't like to owe people kindness. Duke Ming's eyes flashed with a strange light. Then he snorted coldly, walked to the side, and sat down again. Muyu had been covered by the majestic and powerful blue spirit power. If it was compared to water, he originally just stripped a drop of water from his body and disassembled it into black and white spirit power. But after swallowing the Ghost Lord twins who were half a step into the Dashang stage, this drop of water had become a huge pond. Muyu was equivalent to refining the essence of a master who was half a step into the Dashang stage into pure spirit power for cultivation. He sat in the air, and the meridians in his body were filled with majestic spirit power. This spirit power made his body full of strength in an instant, and the spirit power that had been consumed had been completely restored. An hour later, the cultivation of the 5th layer of the crossing tribulation stage spread out from his body and swept out, making all the corpses tremble. Hey, it's a pity that I only improved by 1 layer. Muyu touched his chin and sighed. If people knew what he was thinking, they would have already scolded him. How could the strength of the crossing tribulation stage be so easy to improve? This guy was a typical example of taking advantage of others. But in fact, this kind of thing was normal for Muyu because his abnormal physique of the 5 elements was wood and lacking 4 attributes. There was no barrier to cultivation. The heavenly Tao had its own plans. Muyu had a strong physique for cultivation, so he was destined to die young. There were gains and losses. He was just lucky enough to be chosen by Gomong to survive. Duke Ming looked at Muyu in surprise. Seeing that Muyu's cultivation had skyrocketed after swallowing the Ghost Lord twins, his heart was already set off a storm. He was already quite afraid of the 2 words Muyu in his heart. What kind of person is this? How could there be such a terrible person in the cultivation world? Muyu pondered for a moment and began to devour again. She carefully spent an hour to devour the other crossing calamity stage twin and turned it into a mass of pure spiritual power. Here, Muyu wrapped the refined spirit power in a formation pattern and handed it to Duke Ming. Duke Ming was stunned. He looked at the majestic spirit power in disbelief. In the cultivation world, spirit power was the most basic thing for everyone to improve their cultivation. Even the people of the life and death sect were no exception. In the past, there was the existence of the Inshi ghost array here, so he couldn't do anything to these corpses. But Muyu used a powerful method to refine the corpses and wanted to give it to him. Duke Ming asked suspiciously, "Are you really willing to give this pure spirit power to me?" If he could refine this spirit power, he would definitely be able to recover the losses of the past few decades. This was a treasure that no one could refuse. He didn't expect Muyu to be willing to give it away. Muyu said indifferently, "What's wrong? Is it strange?" Duke Ming's face was gloomy, and then he said, I almost wanted to kill you because I thought you would kill me after this." Muyu asked calmly, "Then why didn't you do it?" Duke Ming's face froze, and he snorted heavily. He didn't want to speak out his thoughts. "I know you're not that kind of person." Muyu smiled. "You trust me that much? I'm a member of the life and death sect, a devil who kills without blinking an eye." Duke Ming frowned. "So what? Since you took the risk to give me the fire of life, why wouldn't I trust you? Trust is given to each other. If you don't trust someone, why would you ask others to trust you?" Muyu looked at this matter very lightly. In the end, it was because Duke Ming saved his life when he went back to the past. He helped Duke Ming escape, and Duke Ming helped Muyu escape from the gate of hell. So Muyu thought that this person was worthy of trust. Duke Ming said coldly, "I don't like the word trust. I just don't like to repay kindness with enmity." If it wasn't for trust, he wouldn't have been trapped in this dark place by Meng Pa for decades. So he hated this so-called trust. However, the trust that Muyu gave him made him feel very uncomfortable. In short, if we want to leave here, we have to help each other. You have to recover your lost spiritual energy, then we can deal with the people from the gate of hell together. Muyu said simply. Duke Ming hesitated for a moment. Then a dark green aura came out of his body and received the spiritual energy that Muyu gave him. This kind of thing was too tempting, and he couldn't refuse. Muyu looked at the remaining 5 crossing calamity stage corpses again. He knew that Ghost Lord and the others must be waiting outside. Although Muyu could destroy the original bodies of the twins, the crossing calamity stage people of the Gate of Hell were not weak Japanese people. It wouldn't make sense for them to be killed so easily by their own twins. At most, these old Japanese people would lose half of their combat power. Losing half of their combat power was still very powerful for Muyu. He needed Duke Meng's help. Muyu spent a few more hours refining the remaining crossing calamity stage corpses into pure spiritual energy. However, he didn't plan to use this spiritual energy directly for cultivation, because he had more important things to do. He gathered all the spiritual energy and drew a spirit gathering array. He sealed all the spiritual energy and left it for others to use in the future. If he wanted to fight against the threefold palace, he couldn't rely on himself. Right now, he was lacking manpower. Zhuge Shaosheng had just stepped into the crossing calamity stage. As a formation master, his combat power was incomparably strong. He needed to improve his cultivation as soon as possible. Other than Zhuge Shaosheng, there was also Tian Ran. If Tian Ran could refine the spiritual energy, she would benefit a lot. Duke Meng had also completely absorbed the spiritual energy that Muyu gave him. However, he still lacked an arm and a soul, so it was difficult for him to use his true strength. I've already killed Meng Pe. Where are you going to find a twin? You people from the Gate of Life and Death also need twins, right? Muyu asked. Duke Meng silently flew to a corner of the twin corpse sea and disappeared into the mountain of corpses. After a while, he reappeared. This time, there was a gloomy-looking corpse following behind him. No cultivation? Muyu looked at the corpse in shock. This corpse didn't have any aura of cultivation. It was obvious that it was outside the Gate of Hell and should be dead. Duke Meng said, "There are countless corpses here. Among them, I found a corpse that fits all the requirements to become my twin. Because the twins with cultivation are controlled by others, I can't refine it. Therefore, I can only find one without cultivation to fool that vicious old woman. For the past few years, I've been using the Yin energy here to cultivate it. As long as I bring it out, I'll be able to get my hands and soul back. With the spiritual energy you just gave me, I'll be able to quickly recover my cultivation." Muyu nodded thoughtfully. He then asked, "You have the fire of life in your body, so it belongs to the Yang attribute. Twins belong to the Yin attribute. Is this why you were with Meng Pe?" "That's right. Only by combining Yin and Yang can I unleash greater power." Duke Meng didn't hide anything. Muyu looked up at the gloomy sky. The twin corpse sea was covered in a hazy, ghostly fog. He didn't know how high it was. Duke Meng was silent for a moment. He then said, "The twin corpse sea's ghost boundary has a boundary. It's 10,000 meters above us. You can try to use your spiritual energy to melt this boundary. If you can, then we'll be able to escape." And it's simple. Muyu hadn't encountered anything that the black and white spiritual energy couldn't do anything to. After refining all the tribulation passing stage twins' corpses in the Gate of Hell, he had a better control over his spiritual energy. As long as he wasn't disturbed when separating the black and white spiritual energy, there wouldn't be any problems. He and Duke Ming jumped high into the air and headed for the boundary of the ghost boundary. On the bridge of helplessness, Ghost Lord's face was so gloomy that water could be wrung out of it. His twin had broken free from his control. For him, this was a matter of life and death. This was because the twin's strength was the same as his. If it wasn't for the fact that he was stronger and killed the twin at the critical moment, he would have been the one to die. Once I catch the person who entered the twin corpse sea, I'll definitely tear you to pieces. Ghost Lord gritted his teeth and said in an incomparably cold voice. Now that he had lost his twin, it was equivalent to losing an arm to the people of the Gate of Hell. Although he still had his strength, when facing cultivators of the same realm as him, the advantage of having twins was gone. He was still in the final stages of recovery. In order to prevent the twins from harming him, he could only kill them. However, the twins were closely related to his body. After killing the twin souls, he also suffered heavy injuries. Right now, he could only display the strength of an 8-stage tribulation passing stage cultivator. It wasn't just him. Ghost and Shadow and Fantasy Sound were also entangled by the twins. They were also sitting cross-legged on the side and engaged in a difficult battle with the twins. To the people of the Devil's Gate, fighting the twins was like fighting another version of themselves. This was because all the cultivation methods of the twins were the same as their own. Wanting to easily defeat them was an extremely difficult matter. Fantasy Sound was originally going to repair the passage into the Twin Corpse Sea. However, halfway through, the twins began to resist, and she had no choice but to stop. Thus, the passage hadn't been repaired yet. If the passage between the Bridge of Helplessness and the Twin Corpse Sea wasn't repaired, it would only be repaired at the beginning of the month. Right now, there were still many days until the beginning of the month. Wait until I recover. I'll definitely kill my way into the Twin Corpse Sea and kill you. Ghost Lord roared angrily. However, a cold voice echoed in the surroundings. Chapter 1001. The cyan sword light instantly illuminated the entire cliff as it slashed down towards Ghost Lord. Ghost Lord angrily roared. He endured the injuries in his body and stood up. Ghost Chi suddenly rolled up and surged towards Mu Yu's sword light. However, Mu Yu's figure flashed and landed at the entrance of the passage. At this time, Ghost and Shadow and Fantasy Sound were also barely able to suppress their twin souls. They stood up and glared at Mu Yu. Ghost Lord Mengpe. Fantasy Sound saw Mu Yu appear alone and didn't see Mengpe. He understood that something bad had happened to Mengpe. You're Mu Yu? Ghost Lord looked coldly at Mu Yu, as if he wanted to use his sharp eyes to pierce through Mu Yu's disguise. However, Mu Yu's array skills had already reached the acme of perfection. No matter how powerful Ghost Lord was, he couldn't see through Mu Yu's disguise. This old man's name is Tian Xingzhou. Mu Yu pretended to speak in a righteous tone. Regardless of whether the other party believed him or not, he wouldn't reveal his identity. You actually dare to disguise yourself as Tian Xingzhou? Do you think you can fool me? Although Ghost Lord couldn't see through Mu Yu's illusion, he wasn't stupid. This was because people from other sects couldn't casually barge into the gate of Hell's Twin Corpse Sea. Mu Yu didn't think much of it and continued. This old man is here to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and destroy the gate of hell. He thought it was funny when he said it himself. But no matter what, the next plan needed to be carried out under the identity of Tian Xingzhou. Ghost Lord glared venomously at Mu Yu. You still dare to act mysterious. I don't care who you are. Since you dared to come to the gate of hell's territory and behave so atrociously, I will definitely kill you. Monstrous Ghost Chi emerged from the Ghost Lord's body. The Ghost Lord, who was half a step into the Deshang stage, lost the souls of the twins. At this time, his aura was only at the 9th heavenly layer of crossing tribulation. The Ghost and Shadow and the Fantasy Sound both had the cultivation of the 5th heavenly layer of crossing tribulation. Mu Yu's cultivation had already reached the 5th heaven of the crossing tribulation realm. But if they really fought with the Ghost Lord's cultivation and the other two people, it was enough to suppress Mu Yu. Huh, what a joke. The gate of hell is a place where I can come and go as I please. What can you do to me? Mu Yu didn't intend to fight with Ghost Lord at all. There was no chance of winning if he fought with Ghost Lord and the other two in the territory of the gate of hell. He turned around without hesitation and rushed outside. The sword light flashed, and the powerful sword Chi split the passage in an instant. The whole passage was torn apart, and he jumped from the ground to the sky. Chase after him. Ghost Lord already hated Mu Yu to the bone because the twins were destroyed. He chased after him without hesitation. The Fantasy Sound and the Ghost and Shadow also endured the injuries on their bodies and followed closely behind. The three of them were annoyed by Mu Yu's provocation, but they didn't notice that after they left, a figure without hands suddenly appeared on the bridge of helplessness. This kid really dares to provoke Ghost Lord alone. How bold! Duke Ming couldn't help but shake his head. Even he didn't dare to have the idea of provoking the three of them. Then he looked at the human crutch made by Meng Pu on the bridge of helplessness and the soul that was imprisoned by the blood. He snorted coldly, and the blood that imprisoned the soul directly turned into a bloody mist. The soul quickly floated to him and merged into his body. The human crutch separated again and flew to his shoulder. His shoulder made a bone creaking sound. The zombie technique of the gate of life and death was quite powerful. In the blink of an eye, he had recovered to his original state. Finally, I can leave this place. Duke Ming stretched his muscles and bones. Then, he walked to the stone basin filled with Meng Po's soup. He flicked his finger, and the blood in the basin was flicked into the air and sprinkled on the bridge of helplessness. Before I leave, I still have to find the people in the gate of hell. Duke Ming's aura suddenly rose, and the aura of the fifth sky of the tribulation stage was emitted. At this time, Muyu lured Ghost Lord, the fantasy sound, and the ghost and shadow away. Then, no one in the gate of hell could stop him. After Muyu left the gate of hell, he quickly fled into the distance without saying a word. His speed was extremely fast, and the Big Dipper constellation formation under his feet had been pushed to the limit. Because Ghost Lord's strength was still above his, he didn't have a good chance of winning against the three of them alone. Ghost Lord's eyes were already filled with anger. After such a big change, all the twins of the tribulation stage Ghost Lords were destroyed. Now, he only wanted to catch Muyu and destroy Muyu first. Still want to escape? Ghost Lord roared, and monstrous ghost chi swept out. The whole sky was like a ghost god descending to the world. Ghost chi filled the sky, surging and roaring, and then formed a black skull tens of thousands of feet long. Ghost chi slashed down from the sky, turning into ghost owls that bared their fangs and brandished their claws, and shot toward Muyu. Green runes flickered around Muyu's body, flashing left and right. The ghost all slammed into the ground, riddling the ground with thousands of holes. Countless bottomless pits appeared below and even destroyed a mountain range. The ground within 1,000 miles seemed to have experienced an earthquake. The sound of the ground cracking was deafening, and it was shocking. Ghost Lord's strength was obvious. Shadow Sword Chi rushed straight to the sky, crushing the ghost Chi in the sky, and turned into a vortex. This vortex kept moving with Muyu's movement. Then, tens of thousands of feet of Sword Chi slashed down from the sky and blasted behind him. Ghost Lord snorted coldly. Unlike the others, he didn't dodge at all. Instead, he took out a ghost flag. The ghost flag was full of vengeful spirits, and a huge abyss mouth appeared. It directly swallowed Muyu's Sword Chi. This old devil is really powerful, Muyu secretly exclaimed. Although his heaven sword was powerful, it was still slightly at a disadvantage in front of the ghost flag that could exert the Mahayana stage's domain ability. Ghost Lord's strength was stronger than his. Now, he didn't have the open ruins cauldron or other domain magic treasures to protect himself. It was still too difficult for him to fight Ghost Lord head-on. At this time, Ghost and Shadow and Fantasy Sound attacked one after another. A ghost staff from Ghost and Shadow's hand pointed horizontally at Muyu. At the front of this ghost staff was a withered hand. The ghost hand seemed to come alive, and with a sharp sound, it swept up waves of air and grabbed at Muyu. 8 trigrams formation patterns surged under Muyu's feet again, and he tilted his body to avoid the ghost hand's attack. However, Fantasy Sound had already summoned a bewitching pink ghost at this time. These ghosts made soul-stirring sounds, and they were captivating, making people's minds ripple. However, Muyu's heart was like a boulder, and he wasn't confused by these demonic sounds. Sword Chi swept out again and directly crushed the ghosts that pounced over. Ghost Lord roared, and the ghost fog in the sky turned into hurricanes. These hurricanes fell from the sky as if they were connected to heaven and earth. The hurricanes swept up an incomparably terrifying tearing force. Wherever they went, Everything withered and was destroyed. No life could survive under the hurricanes. Muyu did not dare to continue fighting. She had no choice but to set up a series of water ripples to form the mirror image array. At the same time, the golden so close, yet worlds apart array appeared behind her. Unfortunately, the array was instantly shattered by the Ghost Lord's powerful hurricane. Even so, Muyu took the opportunity to flee even further away. I'm almost there. Strange, where is Tian Ran? As soon as Muyu left the Gate of Hell, he had transmitted the formation to Tian Ran. Logically speaking, Tian Ran should be waiting outside to meet him. However, Tian Ran unexpectedly appeared at this time. You must die. Ghost Lord and the other two instantly caught up. Powerful ghost techniques howled as they surged toward Muyu. Their attacks were ruthless, and they swore to kill Muyu. However, Muyu's body and mind sank. His entire body plummeted. At the same time, he formed a powerful hand seal and shot downward. Below him was a towering mountain. A golden teleportation array immediately appeared on the mountain peak. You want to catch me? You're too inexperienced. Muyu stepped into the teleportation array. The mysterious runes of the teleportation array flashed, and he disappeared. A fixed teleportation array had no delay. Ghost Lord couldn't stop Muyu from leaving. Damn it! Ghost Lord didn't expect Muyu to set up a fixed teleportation array here. He could only forcibly disperse the powerful Ghost Chi Hurricane. Otherwise, once the teleportation array was destroyed by his ghost technique, he wouldn't be able to track Muyu's whereabouts. Almost as soon as Muyu left, Ghost Lord and the other two also landed in the teleportation array. The runes of the teleportation array lit up, and the three of them disappeared. 100 miles outside the Stargate, Zhuge Xiaosheng was sitting cross-legged in an inconspicuous mountain stream. He had been waiting here for 2 days. His attention was always on the green wood Muyu gave him. At this time, he suddenly opened his eyes. The green wood in his hand had taken root and sprouted. It seems that they're ready to act. Zhuge Xiaosheng's eyes flashed. A jade pendant appeared in his hand. It was the teleportation jade pendant invented by Muyu. He immediately crushed it without hesitation. Unlike the teleportation array, which could teleport people immediately, the teleportation jade pendant took Zhuge Xiaosheng and disappeared after a slight delay. When Zhuge Xiaosheng appeared again, he was already on the third mountain peak of the Stargate. Zhuge Xiaosheng appeared in an inconspicuous room. There was no one around the room. It was a dirty and abandoned house. According to Tian Jiansheng, no one would come here. Therefore, when the fluctuation of the commander teleportation array sounded, no one was alerted. The teleportation array under Zhuge Xiaosheng's feet flashed for a while and then disappeared without a trace. Zhuge Xiaosheng had already used the 100 Faces illusion array to transform himself into Tian Hoyang. He then reached out his hand and felt around the ground. His expression changed. Lines of formation appeared in his hand. Then, a topographic map of the Stargate appeared on the ground. Muyu is actually so well prepared. This is really surprising, Zhuge Xiaosheng exclaimed. Muyu had already snuck into the Stargate a while ago. He had set up countless formations in the Stargate, including several commander teleportation arrays. Just now, Zhuge Xiaosheng had crushed the jade pendant to sneak in. Although the protective formation of the Stargate was powerful, it was full of loopholes in front of Muyu. It couldn't stop the commander teleportation array. The map engraved with array patterns on the ground recorded the location of the heavenly Stargate and Zhuge Xiaosheng's current position. He remembered Muyu's instructions and understood what his mission was. Chapter 1002. On the surface, Stargate looked normal. All the disciples were doing their jobs. Those who were on duty were patrolling the area. Those who weren't on duty were cultivating. Because many elders and disciples of Stargate had to go to various cities to help the self-cultivators fight against Yaman, there weren't many people in the sect. Tian Jingxin was in charge of guarding the fourth mountain. He and another elder took turns to guard the core of Stargate's formation. Each of them took turns for a month. The sun was extremely bright and beautiful. The fourth divine peak was filled with red flowers and green willows, full of vitality. Tianjingxin sat in the pavilion and looked down at the scenery of the heavenly starry sect. In the distance, there were mountain ranges and clouds lingering around them. Those were the other divine mountains floating in midair. From time to time, there would be people from the heavenly starry sect flying across the sky and landing on the other divine mountains. Very few people from the heavenly starry sect would come to the fourth divine peak. This place could be said to be a forbidden area of the sect. Aside from Yu Mingjun, who was responsible for maintaining the array formation, the rest of the people who could come to the fourth divine peak were all respected elders of the heavenly starry sect or sect master Tianyuan. Normally, they would come to visit the ancestor of the heavenly starry sect, so Yu Mingjun didn't dare to neglect them. The self-cultivator world is really unstable now, but it's really interesting. Tianjingxin looked at the figures in the distance and thought about the war between humans and Yumon. He revealed a disdainful smile. Although he was only in the spirit-severing stage, he knew a lot of the high-level secrets of Stargate because he guarded the core formation of the mountain guarding formation all year round. He also knew what this war meant. Of course, he wouldn't say it out loud. The Threefold Palace had their own reasons for doing things. It wasn't something he could casually guess. He just had to do his job well. But at this moment, a powerful aura suddenly appeared on the fourth mountain peak. Tianjingxin took a closer look. It was the other tribulation passing stage patriarch of Stargate, Tian Hoyang. Strange. Why is Patriarch Tian Hoyang back? Isn't he in Wuqiu City? Tianjingxin was very confused, but he still hurried out of the pavilion and knelt on the ground respectfully. Disciple greets ancestor Hoyang. This Tian Hoyang was naturally Zhuge Shaosheng in disguise. Although his cultivation was not as good as Tian Hoyang's, as the leader of the Array faction, his strength was not as simple as the Crossing Tribulation stage. His 100 Faces illusory array was also very powerful. In addition, his cultivation was at the Crossing Tribulation stage. With Tianjingxin's cultivation, it was impossible for him to distinguish the real from the fake. Get up! Zhuge Shaosheng used the array technique to imitate Tian Hoyang's voice. Tian Hoyang had frequently led the human race to kill Yumon. So many people had heard his voice. Zhuge Shaosheng had already sent people to use the array technique to record Tian Hoyang's appearance, voice, and habits. At this moment, his impersonation of Tian Hoyang was flawless. As long as he didn't meet anyone at the Crossing Tribulation stage, it would be very difficult for the other Stargate members to discover that he was a fake Tian Hoyang. Thank you, Patriarch. Tianjingxin stood in place with a respectful expression. He didn't know why Tian Hoyang, who was supposed to go to Wuqiu City, suddenly returned to Stargate. However, the whereabouts of a Crossing Tribulation stage Patriarch was not something he, a mere severed soul stage, could question. Even if he was in charge of guarding this place, he was not qualified to ask, "Where's Senior Marshal Brother Xingzhou?" Zhuge Shaosheng asked calmly. Tian Hoyang was Tian Xingzhou's junior martial brother, so Zhuge Shaosheng knew this very well. Patriarch Hoyang, Patriarch Xingzhou is in closed-door cultivation. He ordered us not to disturb him. Tianjingxin replied respectfully. Okay, I have something to talk to him about. You can go do your own things. Zhuge Shaosheng walked towards the top of the mountain with his head held high. However, Tianjingxin hurriedly said, Patriarch Hoyang, Patriarch Xingzhou is in closed-door cultivation. You know his personality. A few days ago, Tian Xingzhou called a few women over to do something, but he suddenly sent them away. He said that he was going into closed-door cultivation and forbade others from entering. No one dared to disobey Tian Xingzhou's orders. Even Stargate's gate master, Tian Yuehen, had to be courteous to him. As the guard of this place, Tianjingxin had to inform this Tian Hoyang of this matter. After all, people didn't like to be interrupted when they were in seclusion. Zhuge Shaosheng snorted. Of course, I know Senior Marshal Brother Xingzhou is in closed-door cultivation. However, how can the matters of the Threefold Palace be delayed? Please forgive me, Patriarch. Tianjingxin hurriedly lowered his head and didn't dare to speak again. Guard this place well. Don't let anyone else in. Zhuge Xiaosheng was already walking towards Tian Xingzhou's residence. He already knew where Tian Xingzhou lived from the Stargate map, left behind by Mu Yu. Yes, Tian Jingxin responded respectfully. Although he was a little confused about Tian Hoyang's sudden arrival, he didn't think too much about it. A crossing tribulation stage patriarch could come and go as he pleased. The dignity of a crossing tribulation stage patriarch was sacred and inviolable in Stargate. Although the fourth mountain was a forbidden area, it wasn't used to prohibit a crossing tribulation stage patriarch. Tian Jingxin didn't dare to ask about it. Zhuge Xiaosheng quickly arrived at Tian Xingzhou's residence. He then pushed open the door and entered Tian Xingzhou's luxurious courtyard. Even Zhuge Xiaosheng was amazed when he saw Tian Xingzhou's courtyard. This guy really knows how to enjoy life. His style of living is so extravagant. At this time, there was already a person sitting on a chair in the courtyard waiting for him with a confused look in his eyes. It was Tian Xingzhou, who had lost his mind and was being controlled by Mu Yu. When Tian Xingzhou saw Zhuge Xiaosheng, he stood up from the chair and knelt down in front of Zhuge Xiaosheng. He said respectfully, "Greetings, master." "My sect master, how did you do it?" Zhuge Xiaosheng looked at Tian Xingzhou, who was kneeling in front of him. He couldn't help admiring his easygoing but worrisome sect master. Although Mu Yu didn't like others calling him sect master and treated Zhuge Xiaosheng as an elder, Zhuge Xiaosheng was quite respectful to Mu Yu. He didn't expect that Mu Yu could control Tian Xingzhou, who was in the seventh sky of the crossing calamity stage. In fact, Tian Xingzhou was extremely powerful. The seventh sky of the crossing calamity stage was not a joke. Even if Mu Yu wanted to subdue Tian Xingzhou quietly, it was almost impossible. Moreover, when two people in the crossing calamity stage fought, it would definitely alarm the whole Stargate. However, Tian Xingzhou was defeated by his own hobbies. For the sake of some men's desires, he even believed in Yu Mingjun, which gave Mu Yu a chance to make a move. Tian Xingzhou, I didn't expect you to have such a day." Zhuge Xiaosheng had seen Tian Xingzhou once when he followed Tian Xingzhou to the Stargate to arrange the formation. At that time, Tian Xingzhou's cultivation was much higher than his. Zhuge Xiaosheng didn't dare to have any disrespectful thoughts in front of Tian Xingzhou. But now, he couldn't help but sigh at the impermanence of the world. Now, Tian Xingzhou was like a servant kneeling in front of him, and he could completely control this person's life and death. However, your Stargate almost destroyed my Array faction. You only have yourself to blame for this. Zhuge Xiaosheng naturally hated Stargate. Back then, the Stargate assisted the Talisman Grandmaster to almost destroy the Array faction. Zhuge Xiaosheng wouldn't easily forget this debt. When the Talisman Grandmaster launched the attack, Zhuge Xiaosheng was only a body integration stage cultivator, even though he was very powerful. He felt powerless in the face of Stargate. Now that his cultivation was no longer the same as before, he was here to collect his debt. Zhuge Xiaosheng followed the method of controlling the soul formation that Mu Yu gave him. With a thought, Tian Xingzhou stood up and followed Zhuge Xiaosheng out of the courtyard. Tian Jingxin, who was in the pavilion, was slightly surprised when he saw Tian Hoyang and Tian Xingzhou walking towards him from afar. The patriarch has come out of seclusion. Tian Jingxin hurriedly stood up and tidied his clothes. He didn't expect that Tian Hoyang, patriarch, would actually invite Tian Xingzhou out. This couldn't be delayed. Disciple greets the two patriarchs. Tian Jingxin hurriedly jumped out of the pavilion and respectfully knelt by the roadside to pay his respects. Facing the two patriarchs of Stargate, Tian Jingxin didn't dare to show the slightest bit of disrespect. "Get up. Junior brother Hoyang and I are going to the main hall. Remember, don't let anyone cause trouble in the main hall." Tian Xingzhou, who was under the control of Zhuge Xiaosheng, sternly shouted at Tian Jingxin. "Yes, disciple will keep it in mind." Tian Jingxin hurriedly replied. The palace at the top of the mountain was where the core formation of Stargate was located. Usually, Tian Xingzhou would occasionally wander around there. This was his habit. Tian Jingxin knew this, but he still felt that there was something strange about the patriarch in front of him. Strange? Why does Patriarch Xingzhou feel that something is wrong? Tian Jingxin pondered. In the past, when he met Tian Xingzhou was like an unreachable giant that he had to look up to in awe. In front of Tian Xingzhou, Tian Jingxin felt like a drop in the ocean. But today, when he met the patriarch, who was like a god to the people of Stargate, didn't seem to have any spiritual energy fluctuations. He was just like an ordinary person. Could it be that the patriarch's cultivation has improved after a few days of secluded cultivation and reached another level? Tian Jingxin was envious. He wasn't a tribulation passing stage expert, so he didn't understand the tribulation passing stage. However, Tian Xingzhou was the faith of the people of Stargate. It was also because of his existence that the people of Stargate could do whatever they wanted in the cultivation world. Therefore, even if Tian Xingzhou looked like an ordinary person with no spiritual energy fluctuations, he didn't dare to question anything. Tian Xingzhou and Tian Hoyang gradually disappeared in front of him as they walked towards the top of the mountain. Only then did Tian Jingxin stand up and return to the pavilion. Zhuge Xiaosheng walked all the way to the top of the mountain. He was no stranger to this path. The Sky Star Sect's array formation was once set up by the Array Heavenly Tao. As the sect master of the Array Heavenly Sect, Zhuge Xiaosheng had followed the Array Heavenly Tao back then and was very familiar with the array formation here. Thus, he walked forward with ease. Along the way, when the elders who were guarding saw him and Tian Xingzhou, they all knelt down and saluted, not daring to say anything. The two quickly arrived at the palace where the core formation of Stargate was engraved. Zhuge Xiaosheng looked at the familiar formation and felt a wave of emotions in his heart. I didn't expect to come here again. This core formation was personally set up by Formation Heavenly Tao, the founder of the Formation Heavenly Tao. It was extremely powerful. Seeing the founder's formation, Zhuge Xiaosheng also felt nostalgic. Formation Heavenly Tao was his faith. However, Zhuge Xiaosheng quickly put away his nostalgic expression. He remembered how the formation Heavenly Tao was almost destroyed and felt a bit angry. This formation shouldn't be used in a place like this. Zhuge Xiaosheng didn't pay attention to Tian Xingzhou. Instead, he turned his gaze to the mysterious formation runes in the center of the palace. He had already seen what Muyu did to this formation. At this moment, an invisible formation hidden in the core formation had already started to circulate. Stargate, you wanted to destroy the foundation of my formation, Heavenly Tao. Today, I will make you pay for it one by one. Chapter 1003. Two cultivators were walking in the lush forest. One of them was called Han Shi, while the other was called Suyu. Both of them were at the nascent soul stage. They came from the Water Moon sect and were a pair of Tao companions. The sect master of the Water Moon sect was at the body fusion stage. Although she was far from being comparable to the Eight Gates, she was still considered a mid-tier power. Han Shi looked to be around 40 years old. His expression was somewhat regretful as he looked at his surroundings. Soon after, he said, "What a pity. We still let that injured mystic rank water creature escape. As long as we kill him, we can obtain the soul points." They were cultivators who were stationed in the nearby Mi-Bei city. They followed a severed soul expert from the Gate of Hell to fight against the Yamon. Just now, they were chasing after a heavily injured water Yamon. Unfortunately, when they reached this place, they suddenly lost track of the water Yamon. Suyi was quite good-looking and was Han Chi's wife. She walked in front and called out, "Seventh brother, there's a pond here." If the water Yamon was able to disappear in this area, then it must have escaped in a place with water. The pond was definitely the best hiding place for the water Yamon. Han Chi and Suyu quickly landed beside the pond in the forest. The pond was sparkling, and there were mysterious ripples that were slightly undulating. Looking at the ripples on the water surface, the water Yamon must have jumped into this pond. Han Chi's face lit up. Killing a profound stage Yamon would give them 5 soul points. To them, 5 soul points were extremely important. Then how do we force the water Yamon out of the pond? Suyu asked. Han Chi coldly snorted and said, "That water Yumon is already heavily injured. It's definitely under the pond. Let's use our spiritual energy to evaporate this pond. If we can kill that water Yumon, we'll naturally obtain the soul points." As he spoke, Han Chi's nascent soul stage spiritual power condensed in his hand. This aura was condensed, vigorous, and steady. With the cultivation of the nascent soul stage, not to mention a small pond, it was more than enough to destroy a forest within a radius of 50 meters. Suyu said, "Seventh brother is really amazing. I'm afraid that he will break through to the out-of-body stage in the near future. I can't catch up with him." Han Chi smiled complacently. "Xiaoyu, you have to work hard. Last time, I used 500 soul points to exchange for a soul refining art from Lord Gue Si at the Gate of Hell. I have to say that this soul refining art is of great help to my cultivation. I'll also teach you this soul refining art. You have to carefully ponder over it." Suyu said enviously, "Lord Gue Si has the cultivation of the spirit severing stage. His soul refining art is really incomparably powerful. Unfortunately, we're stuck at the third layer of the cultivation technique. Wait until I have enough soul points to ask for his guidance." When Suyu mentioned the spirit severing stage Gue Si, her face was filled with reverence. "Let's kill this water Yumon first." Han Chi's palm condensed in his hand and slammed down towards the pond. In his opinion, his palm was extremely powerful and was enough to scatter the soul of the heavily injured water Yumon. Wang. However, what Han Chi didn't expect was that when his spirit power touched the water surface suddenly lit up with a golden 8 trigrams formation pattern. His palm was directly repelled by the 8 trigrams formation pattern. At this moment, the 8 trigrams formation pattern on the water surface quickly circulated. A majestic aura came from the center of the pond. Following that, a figure suddenly appeared in the 8 trigrams formation. This is Water Yumon's accomplice?" Han Chi exclaimed, because Yumon's appearance was no different from a human if it didn't use its ability. When Han Chi first saw the person in the 8 trigrams formation, the first thing he thought of was Water Yumon's backup. Water Yumon's accomplice? Muyu shrugged his shoulders non-committally. This was a fixed transmission array that he had set up. He didn't expect to encounter 2 nascent soul stage cultivators. However, with the strength of these 2 people, they were still too inexperienced to destroy his transmission array. Suyu said sternly, "You Water Yumon, how dare you stir up trouble in our human territory? You're courting death." Muyu thought for a moment and pretended to be deep in thought. Then, he poured his crossing tribulation stage cultivation on Han Chi and Suyu without reservation. He said, "Listen carefully. This old man is Tian Xingzhou, an elder of Stargate. The leader of the Gate of Hell, Ghost Cold, is chasing after this old man. If you want to live, leave this place quickly. Otherwise, it will be too late for you to get involved." Han Chi and Suyu originally wanted to join forces to capture Muyu, but when Muyu's crossing tribulation stage aura spread out, they were so scared that they directly sat on the ground. They were extremely shocked. That was the aura of a crossing tribulation stage cultivator. When they fought with Yaman for a while, they had also seen 8 crossing tribulation stage cultivators. They didn't expect that they, who were only at the nascent soul stage, would actually threaten a crossing tribulation stage senior of Stargate. They were really courting death. Before the 2 of them could say anything, the transmission array on the surface of the pond behind them lit up again. Muyu didn't hesitate and disappeared into the forest in a flash. At this time, what made Han Chi and Suyu even more terrified was that 3 ghostly auras flashed above the pond behind them. They were also at the crossing tribulation stage. Ghost Cold stepped on the shore and looked around, only to find that Muyu had disappeared. He glanced at Han Chi, who was paralyzed on the ground, and asked coldly, "Where did that person go?" When Han Chi saw that the other party was from the Gate of Hell, he recalled that he had obtained a cultivation method from the Gate of Hell from Master Gue Si, who was at the spirit severing stage. He didn't expect to meet a crossing tribulation stage cultivator at the Gate of Hell this time. If he could get a better cultivation method from a crossing tribulation stage cultivator at the Gate of Hell, he would really make a big profit. Han Chi wanted to curry favor with the big shot from the Gate of Hell, so he quickly knelt down and said respectfully, "Master, just now, there was a person who claimed to be Elder Tian Xingzhou from Stargate. He is now heading over there." "Master, I'm Han Chi from the Water Moon sect. I'm not interested in where you're from." Ghost Cold snorted coldly. His voice echoed in Han Chi's ears like ice that wouldn't melt for 1,000 years, making Han Chi shiver from the depths of his soul, and he abruptly swallowed his words. At this time, the light of the teleportation array had already lit up in the forest in front of them, attracting the attention of Ghost Cold and the others. Without saying anything, Ghost Cold directly turned into a ghost aura and rushed towards the teleportation array. Fantasy Sound glanced at Su Yu and discovered that Su Yu's soul was very powerful. At this time, she had just killed her own twin due to the resuscitation of the twins, so her strength was greatly reduced. He immediately raised his hand, and a red ghost fog sprang out and wrapped around Su Yu. Su Yu only let out a terrified scream, and then her body exploded into a bloody mist, which was all absorbed by Fantasy Sound. Even her soul couldn't escape. "Fantasy Sound, what are you waiting for?" Ghost and Shadow shouted from the front. After mercilessly killing Su Yu, Fantasy Sound didn't bother to care about Han Chi, who was already dumbfounded from fear. He turned around and rushed towards another teleportation array. Little you know, little you. Chapter 1004. The Gate of Hell's Gate Master, Ghost Cold, and Fantasy Sound are chasing after Stargate's Tian Xingzhou. Why are the 8 gates already having internal strife? Stargate and the Gate of Hell actually turned against each other. Han Chi clenched his teeth and angrily looked at the disappearing ghost energy in the distance. However, he didn't dare to say anything in his heart, nor did he dare to stay for long. With tears in his eyes, he looked at the place where his wife had been paralyzed. Resentment welled up in his heart as he turned around and left the place. "People of the Gate of Hell, I didn't expect you to be so vicious. I, Han Chi, swear that I will never coexist with you." Han Chi decided to return to Mi Bay City and tell everyone the news that the Gate of Hell's Gate Master and 2 Tribulation Passing Stage Elders were chasing after Stargate's Tian Xingzhou. He wanted everyone to understand that Stargate and the Gate of Hell had fallen out. No matter whether this matter was true or not, he couldn't swallow this anger. However, Han Chi hadn't gone far when a figure suddenly appeared in front of Han Chi. Han Chi raised his head and was startled. The other party was actually a body integration stage cultivator. When he saw the Stargate logo on Long Chingen's clothes and saw Long Chingen's face, he suddenly exclaimed, "Lord Tian Jiansheng?" Although Han Chi didn't recognize those tribulation passing stage experts, he had seen Tian Jiansheng once in Wuqiu City. He didn't expect to meet Tian Jiansheng here. Tian Jiansheng was known as the #1 existence under the tribulation passing stage. Tian Jiansheng's reputation was like thunder to the ears, second only to other tribulation passing stage experts. Tian Jiansheng had been killed long ago. Now, the one controlling Tian Jiansheng's body was Long Chingen. Even Mu Yu would never have thought that Long Chingen, who was supposed to be in Wuqiu City, would appear here. Long Chingen looked at Han Chi indifferently and calmly asked, "Who are you? Why are you here?" It was as if Han Chi had found his savior. Without hesitation, he knelt down and cried, "Sir Tian Jiansheng, bad news. Just now, I saw the Gate of Hell trying to kill Tian Xingzhou from Stargate. The people of the Gate of Hell have gone too far. I'm worried that Sir Tian Xingzhou." With snot and tears, Han Chi recounted the events that had just transpired, adding oil and vinegar to the story. He even described the heaven-traveling boat, as if it was about to be killed by the 3 people from the ghost sect. The people from the Gate of Hell had killed his wife in front of him. He hated the people from the Gate of Hell to the core. At this moment, he hoped that the people from Stargate would find out about this and kill the Gate of Hell to avenge his wife. However, Long Chingen only nodded slightly. Then he said righteously, The gate of hell's collusion with Yuman was exposed, and they were discovered by our Stargate. Now, they want to destroy our Stargate. This is unacceptable. I'm here to deal with the people from the gate of hell. Hurry up and leave here. Spread the news, and let more people know about the ugly faces of the people from the gate of hell. What? The people from the gate of hell are actually colluding with Yaman? Han Chi was shocked. The 8 gates were leading the cultivators to fight against Yaman. Just a few days ago, he and his wife had followed the people from the gate of hell to fight against Yaman. Now, Tian Jiansheng was saying that the people from the gate of hell were colluding with Yaman. Han Chi wouldn't believe it if it was anyone else who dared to say this. However, the person who said this was the famous elder Tian Jiansheng of Stargate. This was too convincing. He recalled the hurried expression of Tian Xingzhou and how the 3 people from the gate of hell had chased after him. In his heart, he believed Tian Jiansheng's words. Leave this place. Tell as many people as possible that the people from the gate of hell are colluding with Yuman. Tell the cultivators not to risk their lives for the people from the gate of hell. Also, tell them that Lord Tian Xingzhou asked you to spread the news. Do you understand? Long Qingyan said solemnly. Yes, Lord. Han Chi recovered from his shock. If someone else had said this, he wouldn't have believed it. However, since it came from Tian Jiansheng, and with the hatred of killing his wife, he no longer had any doubts. He quickly stood up and left. Long Qingyan looked thoughtfully at Han Chi's back as he left. He went back to the pond where the teleportation formation had been set up and muttered to himself, Mu Yu, oh Mu Yu, I finally understand what you're trying to do. Long Qingyan had taken Mu Yu to Stargate, but Mu Yu didn't allow him to follow. Therefore, he didn't know what Mu Yu was doing at Stargate. Long Qingyan pondered for a moment. Then, a blue jade pendant appeared in his hand. Waves of blue light came from the jade pendant. It actually contained a powerful domain power. The domain power on the blue jade pendant enveloped Long Qingyan. With a flash of blue light, Long Qingyan disappeared from the pond. On the 4th peak of Stargate, Tian Jingshin knelt on the ground again. He muttered in his heart, how could he have knelt 3 times in less than 2 hours? And this time, the person who appeared in front of him was the Gate Master of Stargate, Tian Yuan. Greetings, Gate Master, Tian Jingshin said respectfully. In his heart, he was also puzzled. Why were these tribulation passing stage lords usually nowhere to be seen? Why were they appearing in groups today? He wondered in his heart. Could it be that something had happened? Get up. How's everything here recently? No one has come, right? Tian Yuan asked casually. He was wearing a luxurious purple robe. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. He was over 50 years old. Tian Jingshin was in awe of his imposing manner. Everything is fine here. To be honest, Gate Master, Patriarch Hoyang also came here just now. Tian Jingshin replied. Hoyang Shirshu also came here. Isn't he in charge of things in Wuqiu City? What is he doing here? Tian Yuan frowned. Tian Jingshin shook his head. Gate Master, I don't know. I only know that after Patriarch Hoyang came here, he went to find Patriarch Xingzhou. Then, the 2 patriarchs went straight to the main hall on the mountain peak. Isn't Marshal Uncle Xingzhou in seclusion? Did he come out? Tian Yuan became more and more suspicious. He looked at the main hall on the mountain peak and walked toward it. Tian Jingshin looked at Tian Yuan's back in awe. He didn't dare to say anything. He was just a small guard. In the main hall on the 4th mountain peak, Zhuge Xiaosheng was somewhat nervous. After all, they were in Stargate. If something went wrong, he would be in trouble. However, when he thought about destroying the Starry Sky sect, his heart was filled with anticipation. Tian Xingzhou was standing in place with a confused expression. Zhuge Xiaosheng had already prepared everything Mu Yu asked him to do. He was just waiting for Mu Yu's signal. He pondered for a moment. Then, he pushed Tian Xingzhou to the edge of the core formation. Then, he quietly hid in a corner and cast an invisibility formation on himself. Zhuge Xiaosheng looked at the green wood in his hand. The branches and leaves on the green wood had sprouted again. His eyes lit up. He knew that Mu Yu had given him new instructions. He immediately held his breath and stared. However, at this moment, a tribulation passing stage aura was approaching from outside the main hall. Zhuge Xiaoxing's expression changed. Damn it, this aura is Tianyuan. Zhuge Xiaoxing didn't expect that the leader of Stargate would come here at this time. Tianyuan's cultivation was in the fifth sky of the tribulation passing stage. He was much more powerful than Zhuge Xiaoxing. He didn't expect that what he was afraid of would happen. In front of Tianyuan, Zhuge Xiaoxing wouldn't be able to protect himself if he was exposed. If Tianyuan were to enter the hall and see the abnormal state of the heaven-traversing boat, his plan would most likely be disrupted. Zhuge Xiaoxing had no choice but to withdraw the invisibility formation immediately. He walked out and bumped into Tianyuan. Tianyuan looked to be in his 50s. His strength was second only to Tian Xingzhou. However, as the leader, he had the supreme magic weapon of Stargate. If he used his full strength, he might be able to fight against someone in the ninth sky of the tribulation passing stage. Zhuge Xiaoxing was sweating in his heart. He had just entered the tribulation passing stage a few months ago. How could he be Tianyuan's opponent? However, he was the leader of the Array faction after all. He was experienced and knowledgeable. He calmed down quickly. Hoyang Shishu, aren't you stationed in Wuqiu City? Why are you back? Tianyuan asked when he saw Zhuge Xiaoxing, who was disguised as Tian Hoyang, come out of the main hall. Zhuge Xiaoxing said calmly, Leader, I came back to look for Senior Brother Xingzhou. I have something important to discuss with him. Senior Brother Xingzhou said that he had some enlightenment today, so he walked around. When he came to the main hall, he began to cultivate in the main hall. He asked me to wait for him outside. Why is Senior Brother Xingzhou cultivating in this place? Tianyuan asked. He looked at Tian Hoyang carefully and found that Tian Hoyang's aura was a little strange. Although his appearance and temperament were similar, he felt that something was missing. Hoyang Shishu, why do I feel that there's something wrong with you? Tianyuan asked with burning eyes. Zhuge Xiaoxing's heart trembled. His 100 Faces illusion formation was very powerful. Tianyuan couldn't see through it. However, he wasn't the real Tian Hoyang after all. Tianyuan was the leader of the Stargate. He was an expert in the fifth sky of the tribulation passing stage. He was very familiar with the real Tian Hoyang, unlike Tian Jingxin, who was only in the spirit-severing stage. Zhuge Xiaoxing's mind spun rapidly as he immediately said, I won't hide it from Sectmaster. I just discovered that Elder Gue Qingxun of the Hellgate had killed a few of our Sky Star Sect's disciples in Wuqiu City. When I went to question him, he actually ignored the orders of the Threefold Palace and openly attacked me. I was accidentally injured by him and have yet to fully recover. Tianyuan frowned. How dare the people of the Gate of Hell do this? Zhuge Xiaoxing continued. The people of the Gate of Hell have always been biased against the Stargate. You should know that when Senior Brother Xingzhou was young, he had a grudge against the current Ghost Lord of the Gate of Hell. I'm worried that the people of the Gate of Hell will do something to our Stargate in the future. We have to be careful. Tianyuan nodded. I know that the people of the Gate of Hell aren't good people, but with the Sanchong Palace here, they won't dare to do anything. I just heard from Tian Jingxin that Senior Brother Xingzhou came here. I have something important to discuss with him. It's not the right time for him to announce that he's going into seclusion. The Sanchong Palace matters can't be delayed. After a pause, Tianyuan suddenly looked at the back of Zhuge Xiaoxing's hand and asked, Hoyang Shishu, where did your soul imprint go? Soul imprint? Zhuge Xiaoxing was shocked. He never knew that Tian Hoyang had a soul imprint. Tianyuan stretched out his left hand and said, Back then, the palace envoy of the Sanchong Palace had placed a soul imprint on the back of all the tribulation passing stage cultivators' hands. When all of us tribulation passing stage cultivators gather together to discuss important matters, we use this as our identity imprint. After all, Mu Yu is an expert in disguise. In order to prevent him from sneaking in, why did your soul imprint disappear? Damn it, the Sanchong Palace actually had this trick up their sleeves. Chapter 1005. In a mountain stream, the runes flashed again. Mu Yu had already rushed out of the teleportation array. He leaped towards another teleportation array and disappeared into it. At this time, the first teleportation array lit up. Ghost Lord and the other two chased after him with murderous intent. Seeing Muyu disappear into another teleportation array, they immediately chased after him and disappeared into another teleportation array. Damn it, this brat came prepared. Ghost Lord shouted angrily as he chased. Muyu had set up countless teleportation arrays along the way. Generally speaking, the teleportation array's teleportation distance was limited. Therefore, Muyu had set up countless teleportation arrays along the way. If it was in the past, Ghost Lord would definitely be suspicious of this. However, now that the twins were destroyed, anger had already clouded his mind. He only wanted to catch Muyu and tear him into pieces to avenge the twins. We can't let him escape. Ghost Lord didn't care where these teleportation arrays led to. It didn't matter where these teleportation arrays led to. In the cultivation world, wherever he wanted to go, everyone had to retreat. In a forest, Ghost Lord and the other two appeared again. When they saw the forest that covered the sky, they immediately frowned. Ghost Lord, I keep feeling that something is wrong. If this person is Muyu, we won't be able to catch him in the forest, Ghost and Shadow said. By now, everyone knew that Muyu had Muyu's ability. Everyone knew that it would be very troublesome to fight Muyu in a place with many trees. Ghost Lord glanced around coldly and said, no matter what tricks he has up his sleeves, we must catch him. We can't let him escape. He remembered the Sanchong Palace's instructions. He definitely understood the importance of Muyu. As long as they captured Muyu, it would be a great merit to the Sanchong Palace. At this time, a strong teleportation array fluctuation came from not far away from the forest, attracting the three's attention. He escaped. Fantasy, Sound said anxiously. Chase. Ghost Lord rushed over without hesitation and landed on the teleportation array in the blink of an eye. Ghost and Shadow and Fantasy Sound followed closely behind. The teleportation array lit up again, and the three disappeared into the forest. However, just as Ghost Lord and the other two left through the teleportation array, a figure suddenly appeared on the treetops above the teleportation array. It was Muyu. I've guided you to this point. I want to accompany you for the rest. Muyu snorted and destroyed the last teleportation array. He didn't leave through the last teleportation array at all. Instead, he hid in the forest and controlled the teleportation array to create an illusion. Before he came to the Gate of Hell, he had set up these teleportation arrays thousands of miles away and spent a lot of time. It was all to lure Ghost Lord and the others to the Stargate and provoke the conflict between the Stargate and the Gate of Hell. Only then could he kill all the people from the Gate of Hell and destroy the foundation of the Gate of Hell. Sectmaster, I'll leave the rest to you. Muyu muttered to himself. He was still worried about Zhuge Xiaosheng. Although Zhuge Xiaosheng entered the tribulation passing stage earlier than him, Zhuge Xiaosheng was a Muyu. Muyu's cultivation talent was very high, and his cultivation was higher than Zhuge Xiaosheng's. Coupled with his extraordinary means, there was nothing for him to be afraid of. At this time, Zhuge Xiaosheng sneaked into the Stargate alone to carry out a mission. This was a very dangerous thing to do. Right now, Muyu could only hope that Zhuge Xiaosheng's mission would go smoothly. He immediately jumped back to the teleportation array he came from and disappeared into another teleportation array. He was going to head to the Gate of Hell. While Ghost Cold and the other two weren't around and the Gate of Hell was lax, he had to destroy the Gate of Hell first. On the fourth mountain of the Stargate, this was already the fourth time Tian Jingxin had knelt down. He felt that today's events were simply too unimaginable. It was one thing for 3 tribulation passing stage experts to appear, but now another incredible person had appeared. Tian Jiansheng. Greetings, Great Elder. Tian Jingxin knelt down 4 times in less than 2 hours. He felt a little tired, but he didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. After all, Tian Jiansheng was the #1 expert below the tribulation passing stage. His status was incomparably noble. It was said that he had the potential to become a tribulation passing stage expert. At that time, the entire Stargate would be like a tiger that had grown wings. Therefore, Tian Jingxin still bowed obediently. Where's Hoyang Shirshu? Tian Jianxing asked. Tian Jianxing and Tian Yuehen were martial brothers. Tian Hoyang was Tian Jianxing's martial uncle. Tian Jingxin replied, He, Gate Master, and Ancestor Xingzhou are all in the main hall at the top of the mountain. Tian Jianxing didn't have time to say anything. He didn't hesitate and directly rushed to the top of the mountain. On the top of the mountain, Zhuge Xiaosheng was already flustered by Tian Yuehen's questioning. He had to find an excuse to dodge it. However, this was the first time he had heard of the soul seal of the three-layered palace. He didn't understand what the soul seal meant. At this time, if he forcibly used a formation to disguise the soul seal, Tian Yuehen would definitely notice it. Zhuge Xiaosheng was very anxious. Cold sweat appeared on his forehead. When he was about to be exposed, Tian Jianxing's voice suddenly came from behind. Greetings, Gate Master. Greetings, Lord Hoyang. Tian Jianxing bowed and said, It's over. Zhuge Xiaosheng never expected that Tian Jianxing would appear at this critical moment. The moment he saw Tian Jianxing appear, his heart almost fell into despair. According to the news, Tian Jianxing should be in Wuqiu City with the real Tian Hoyang. However, Zhuge Xiaosheng's Tian Hoyang disguise appeared here. This meant that Zhuge Xiaosheng's identity would be completely exposed by Tian Jianxing, making things worse for him. Zhuge Xiaosheng's expression changed rapidly. He clenched his fists and was ready to die together with Tian Yuan. He was only at the second sky of crossing tribulation. He couldn't defeat Tian Yuan. At this time, for Mu Yu's plan, he was ready to sacrifice himself. Even if he died, he had to leave a deep impression on Stargate. Tian Yuan looked coldly at Tian Jianxing and said, Tian Jianxing, why are you here? Tian Jianxing said respectfully, Gate Master, Lord Hoyang was ambushed by ghost oppression in Wuqiu City. He is now seriously injured. I came back with Lord Hoyang. What? Zhuge Xiaosheng looked at Tian Jianxing in disbelief. He thought that since Tian Jianxing appeared here, his identity could no longer be hidden. He didn't expect that Tian Jianxing would help him hide his identity. Tian Yuehen snorted and continued. Then Hoyang Shirshu, where did your soul seal go? Or are you not? Zhuge Xiaosheng couldn't answer, but Tian Jianxing suddenly raised Zhuge Xiaosheng's hand and said, Gate Master, when Lord Hoyang was injured, it happened to be on his soul seal. The soul seal fluctuated. When I was healing him, I found that the soul seal had moved to his arm. A strange feeling quietly entered Zhuge Xiaosheng's arm. Zhuge Xiaosheng pulled up his sleeve and found that there was a thumb-sized white extreme celestial tablet mark on his arm. It was the mark of the three palaces. It was exactly the same as the mark on the back of Tian Yuen's left hand. Zhuge Xiaosheng suppressed the shock in his heart and immediately nodded in agreement. Yes, this soul seal looks very unstable. Tian Yuan looked at the soul seal on Zhuge Xiaosheng's arm. After confirming that there was no mistake, the doubt on his face disappeared. He nodded and said, I will ask the Gate of Hell for an explanation. Now, I have something to discuss with Martial Uncle Xingzhou. Zhuge Xiaosheng said, Gate Master, Martial Brother Xingzhou just told me that he will come out of seclusion in 2 hours. We shouldn't disturb him. Tian Yuan thought for a moment and realized that 2 hours wouldn't make much of a difference. He said, Okay, I will come back in 2 hours. He immediately turned and left the fourth mountain. After Tian Yuan left, Zhuge Xiaosheng let out a sigh of relief. But soon, he stared at Tian Jianxing and said, Who are you? Why did you help me? Zhuge Xiaosheng understood that Tian Jianxing in front of him probably already knew that he wasn't the real Tian Hoyang. Tian Jianxing said, I just found out from my master that the Sanchong Palace gave all the people in the Tribulation Realm this soul seal to identify their identity. Fortunately, I knew that you were Zhuge Xiaosheng. Fortunately, I came in time. Zhuge Xiaosheng frowned. He was more and more curious about Tian Jianxing's identity. When he rolled up his sleeves to look at the soul seal again, he found that the soul seal had turned blue and then disappeared. This isn't a soul seal. How did you manage to hide it from Tian Yuan? Zhuge Xiaosheng was really shocked. However, Tian Jiansheng, or Long Qingyan, didn't seem to have any intention of explaining. He just said, "Sect leader Zhuge, you should continue with your own business." Zhuge Xiaosheng frowned. But now that he was in the Stargate, if he left directly, all his previous efforts would be wasted. He immediately gritted his teeth and returned to the main hall. The Ghost Lord and the other two ferociously passed through the long teleportation formation. They were surrounded by strange and variegated formation patterns. When they opened their eyes, the Ghost Lord suddenly felt an inexplicable palpitation. When he was chasing Muyu, the transmission array's location was either a mountain stream, a valley, or a forest. But this time, he appeared in a strange main hall. At this time, a person was standing in the middle of the main hall. It was Tian Xingzhou. "Muyu, let's see where you can escape to this time." When Fantasy Sound saw Tian Xingzhou standing there and mistook him for Muyu, she was furious. She immediately slapped Tian Xingzhou without hesitation. However, the more Ghost Lord thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. He seemed to have been led by the nose by Muyu. Just now, he was anxious to catch Muyu, so he didn't think much about it. But now that he calmed down and thought about it, he felt that this place was a bit strange. Wait, he has no cultivation. He's not Muyu. Ghost Lord quickly stopped Fantasy Sound. However, Phantom Sound's attack was too fast, and it was too late for her to stop. The Phantom Sound that she summoned blasted a huge hole in the Heavenly Speedboat's chest, and the heart was already in the Phantom Sound's hand. Tian Xingzhou suddenly opened his eyes wide and shouted in anger, "Ghost Cold, how dare you people from the Gate of Hell? How dare you break into Stargate?" Tian Xingzhou's voice was so loud that it spread out from the main hall. With the support of Zhuge Xiaosheng's transmission array, it spread throughout Stargate. Everyone in Stargate heard Tian Xingzhou's angry roar at the people from the Gate of Hell. Before Tian Xingzhou could finish his words, his vitality had already left his body, and he fell backward. "No, Senior, Senior." Zhuge Xiaosheng had already rushed over from the corner and supported Tian Xingzhou. He shouted angrily, "People from the Gate of Hell, you killed my senior. My Heavenly Star sect will never forgive you." Zhuge Xiaosheng's angry voice spread far and wide through the transmission array. It spread throughout the fourth mountain and the entire Stargate. Chapter 1006. Stargate? Is this the Stargate? Ghost Lord turned pale with fright. He turned his head and looked around. There was a mysterious array flowing with colorful lights. It looked extraordinary, and they had just come out of this array. "Go, leave this place." Ghost Lord made a prompt decision and immediately rushed into the array. Because they had just come out of this array, as long as they entered the array, they could leave this place through the teleportation array. However, when they stepped into the teleportation array, they found that the teleportation array only lit up slightly. It didn't teleport them away at all. Muyu had already destroyed the other end of the teleportation array, cutting off their escape route. At this time, Zhuge Xiaosheng's voice, disguised as Tian Hoyang, spread throughout the Stargate. The Stargate's gate master, Tian Yuehen, was originally sitting cross-legged on the fifth mountain to cultivate. He didn't expect to suddenly hear Tian Xingzhou's angry roar at the people of the Gate of Hell, followed by Tian Hoyang's voice, which was mixed with endless grief and indignation. He was shocked and immediately rushed out. When he found that the source of the voice was from the fourth mountain, he was even more shocked. The fourth mountain was an important location of the Stargate. How could the people of the Gate of Hell have infiltrated it? Tian Yuehen immediately stepped out without hesitation. Waves of spiritual energy appeared in the air. When he appeared, he had already rushed to the hall at the top of the fourth mountain. The elders guarding the fourth mountain were all alarmed by the voice of Tian Hoyang. They all rushed into the air and surrounded the hall at the top of the mountain. However, these elders didn't dare to go to the hall because it was also a forbidden area for them. In the hall, Zhuge Xiaosheng hugged Tian Xingzhou, who had just died, and glared at Ghost Lord. He spoke very loudly. "The three of you from the Gate of Hell dare to intrude into the territory of the Stargate and kill Senior Brother Xingzhou. I will not forgive you." A saber appeared in Zhuge Xiaoxing's hand. Tian Hoyang was using this saber. Zhuge Xiaoxing was formed from runes. He immediately raised his saber and slashed at Ghost Lord and the other two. "Stop. This is a misunderstanding. We didn't kill Tian Xingzhou on purpose." Ghost Lord raised his hand, and a ghostly aura suddenly filled the hall, blocking Zhuge Xiaoxing's saber. He was stronger than Zhuge Xiaoxing, but because he was in the territory of the Stargate and had killed someone, if he hurt Tian Hoyang, it would be difficult to explain today. "You killed our great elder, and you still dare to say it's a misunderstanding. Don't even think about leaving here alive today." Zhuge Xiaoxing roared and slashed again. However, Ghost Lord had encountered too many things today. The twins were destroyed, and in order to chase someone, he had inexplicably come to this place. Now that he saw Zhuge Xiaoxing's saber coming at him, he used a little strength and counterattacked. This attack was actually just to force him to retreat. However, Zhuge Xiaoxing took advantage of the momentum and deliberately crashed into the hall with Tian Xingzhou. With his strength of the tribulation stage, the impact was quite strong, and the entire hall was smashed into pieces. Boom! The hall that originally belonged to the core forbidden area of the Stargate was destroyed in front of everyone's eyes. What happened? Tian Yuan had already arrived. Seeing the hall being destroyed in front of him, he suddenly became angry. At this time, two people rushed out from the ruins. They were Tian Hoyang and Tian Xingzhou. Gate Master, the people of the Gate of Hell killed the Great Elder. Zhuge Xiaoxing shouted loudly. "The Great Elder? The Great Elder, Tian Xingzhou, is dead?" Everyone in the Stargate was stunned. Everyone's eyes fell on Tian Xingzhou, who was lying in the void beside Zhuge Xiaoxing. At this time, Tian Xingzhou's heart was gone, and there was no vitality in his body. He was dead. What? Tian Yuan felt a shock in his chest, as if he had been hit by something. Tian Xingzhou was the Grand Elder of Stargate. He had the highest cultivation and seniority, but now he was dead. As the Gate Master, Tian Yuan was shocked. Who killed Martial Uncle Tian Xingzhou? Tian Yuan's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He never thought that the Grand Elder of Stargate would meet with an accident here. Moreover, he died in the Stargate's restricted area. Recalling what Tian Hoyang said about the people of the Gate of Hell injuring him, and then looking at Tian Xingzhou's corpse, anger filled his chest. It's them, the three people from the Gate of Hell, led by the Gate Master of the Gate of Hell. Zhuge Xiaoxing pointed at the three figures in the ruins. "Ghost Cold, why are you in the restricted area of Stargate?" Tian Yuan recognized the Gate Master of the Gate of Hell, Ghost Cold. Ghost Cold knew that he had fallen into Mu Yu's trap. Just now, when they were chasing after Mu Yu, who was disguised as Tian Xingzhou, they never thought that they would be brought to this place by the teleportation array. Because of his deep hatred for Mu Yu, when he saw the real Tian Xingzhou, he thought that it was Mu Yu. Therefore, he immediately rushed over and killed the real Tian Xingzhou. Fellow Taoist Moonmark, this is really a misunderstanding. We just came here to chase after Mu Yu. We didn't expect. Ghost Cold wanted to explain, but Tian Hoyang interrupted him and shouted angrily. "Nonsense! I just entered the hall and saw you kill the Great Elder of Stargate with my own eyes. How can you deny this?" "Ghost Cold, did you really kill the Great Elder of Stargate?" Tian Yuan rebuked angrily. Ghost Cold's face sank again. The murder was already a done deal, not to mention that Tian Hoyang was a witness. There was no way to deny it. However, the worst thing was far from this. Just as the three of them were about to leave the core formation of the hall, the core formation suddenly exploded. The Heavenly Star Sect's Grand Protective Array, which was originally glowing, began to crumble under the feet of Gui Yuhan and the other two. As if it was avoiding the dense ghost Shi, the entire Grand Protective Array began to explode. With the collapse of the core formation, the mountains of Stargate suddenly trembled violently. The huge mountains that were originally floating in the air began to tilt. It was as if there was a huge earthquake on the mountain, and the houses and trees on it began to collapse. Countless shocked and bewildered disciples of Stargate quickly rushed out of the collapsed houses and caves. They were extremely shocked and couldn't understand why the mountains that had stood tall for so many years suddenly began to fall. No, Ghost Cold, what did you do to the core formation of Stargate? Tian Yuehen's chest was filled with anger. Even with his tribulation passing stage cultivation, he couldn't stop the 7 mountains from falling. The 7 mountains of Stargate rapidly fell to the ground in front of everyone's eyes. With 7 earth-shattering explosions, the ground below instantly trembled violently. The ground was smashed open, and a huge crater was formed. Smoke and dust soared into the sky, causing the hearts of all the Stargate disciples to tremble. The most amazing 7 mountains of the cultivation world had been destroyed just like that. Ghost Cold, you killed the great elder of Stargate and destroyed the foundation of Stargate. I must kill you today. All Stargate disciples, listen up. Kill these 3 for me. Faced with the death of the great elder and the fall of the 7 mountains of Stargate, Tian Yuan's heart was filled with resentment. He roared and rushed toward Ghost Cold to kill him. All the disciples of Stargate also reacted. Although they were all cultivators and nothing happened to their sect, this kind of humiliation made all the disciples of Stargate red-eyed. One after another, they took out their magic weapons and charged toward Ghost Cold and the other 2. The light of the magic weapons soared into the sky, shattering the clouds in the sky. As soon as Tian Yuehen made his move, the wind and clouds changed dramatically. A long white sword appeared behind him and pointed directly at Ghost Cold. Go! Leave this place! Ghost Cold didn't want to fight with Tian Yuehen. Tian Yuehen's sect had been destroyed, and the Great Elder had been killed. It was impossible to reason with Tian Yuehen. Now, he could only leave this place and report this matter to the Sanchong Palace before making a decision. Ghost and shadow and fantasy sound didn't hesitate to turn into ghostly shadows and flee into the distance. Stargate's mountain guarding array had been destroyed and couldn't stop these 3 people. Tian Xingzhou was dead. At this time, only Tian Yuehen and Tian Hoyang were left in Stargate. If a fight broke out, Ghost Cold and the other 2 wouldn't be afraid at all. However, they couldn't fight, so they could only retreat. However, these 3 people's actions had provoked Tian Yuehen's anger. This was more like the crime of killing people to silence them, destroying their sect, and trying to escape. Pass down my order. All Stargate disciples are to kill anyone from the gate of hell on sight. Hoyang Shu, go and summon all the Stargate elders from all the cities. Follow me to the gate of hell and avenge the great elder. Tian Yuehen roared in grief and indignation. Yes, Gate Master. Zhuge Shaosheng also shouted in a deep voice. He put down Tian Xingzhou's corpse and rushed outside in a flash. The gate of hell, I will definitely make you pay the price. Tian Yuehen roared and rushed into the distance. Avenge the great elder. Kill the people from the gate of hell. All the Stargate disciples received Tian Yuen's order. Seeing their sect destroyed, they were also filled with grief and indignation. Without saying a word, they followed Tian Yuehen and chased after the people from the gate of hell. Muyu used the commander, summoning array again, and rushed in the direction of the gate of hell. This time, he had to destroy a teleportation array every time he teleported back. He knew the teleportation arrays of Stargate like the back of his hand. He had already planned all of this. The teleportation arrays along the way were the ones he had painstakingly set up in order to lure the people from the gate of hell to the forbidden area of Stargate. Then, he would let Zhuge Shaosheng receive them there and destroy the core teleportation array. In his plan, if Ghost Cold and the other 2 didn't kill Tian Xingzhou, then Zhuge Shaosheng would kill Tian Xingzhou and put the blame on Ghost Cold and the other 2. Then, he would spread the news of the internal strife between the Gate of Hell and Stargate, making everyone think that the 8 gates were fighting among themselves. Then, He would take advantage of the fact that the gate of hell wasn't guarded by a tribulation stage cultivator to destroy the gate of hell. Muyu had already rushed back to the gate of hell using the teleportation arrays. Using the countless teleportation arrays, it took less than 2 hours to go back and forth between the Stargate and the gate of hell. If he used the speed of a tribulation stage cultivator to go from Stargate to the gate of hell, it would take at least 8 hours. Muyu had calculated this clearly. It's impossible to deal with maggots like you without some tricks. The Threefold Palace always relied on countless schemes to deal with Muyu. This time, Muyu planned to use a scheme to counterattack. He didn't expect Ghost Cold and Stargate to fight, but the people from the Gate of Hell had appeared in the forbidden area of Stargate. When they appeared, the core teleportation array was destroyed. This matter couldn't be cleared up. Chapter 1007. The Gate of Hell was always filled with a deathly aura. Their sect was located in a very cold and gloomy place, which had something to do with the martial arts they cultivated. Now that the cultivation world had begun to fight against the Yumon under the lead of the 8 Yumon, countless Yumon and cultivators had died. It was the perfect opportunity for the Gate of Hell to collect souls. After the people from the Gate of Hell collected souls, they would periodically return half of the souls they collected to the Gate of Hell. Therefore, countless disciples went in and out of the Gate of Hell every day. About half of the people from the Gate of Hell were present. But today a huge tragedy had occurred in the Gate of Hell. Among the disciples and elders left in the Ghost Gate, the highest cultivation level was only at the body synthesis stage. The remaining 3 crossing calamity stage cultivators had already been lured away by Muyu. These people simply had no room to resist in the hands of Meng Gong, who was at the 5th celestial stage of tribulation stage. The Gate of Hell had truly become a land of death. When Muyu returned to the Gate of Hell, the corpses of the disciples from the Gate of Hell were strewn all over the place. Duke Meng had shown no mercy. He had been trapped in the Twin Corpse Sea by Meng Pe for decades. His hatred for the people from the Gate of Hell had long been ingrained in his bones. Even if he killed all the people from the Gate of Hell, it would not be enough to offset his hatred. You're back. Duke Meng was cultivating by the bridge of helplessness. He opened his eyes and saw Muyu descending from the sky. Then he stood up. Did you kill all the people from the Gate of Hell? Muyu asked calmly. Duke Meng shook his head. No, I killed some. The rest of the people from the Gate of Hell hid in the ghost pit. There was a very powerful ghost array there, so I couldn't enter. Ghost pit? Muyu nodded thoughtfully. In the center of the Gate of Hell, there was a bottomless pit. The people of the Gate of Hell usually lived underground like rats. The ghost sect had been passed down for countless years and had a much deeper foundation than the Starry Sky sect. Naturally, the ghost sect's ghost array was more powerful. Duke Meng walked to the Naraka Bridge and pointed at the bottomless abyss below. He said, if you want to get rid of everyone from the Gate of Hell, the best way is to bring up all the twins from the abyss. Many of the people from the Gate of Hell weren't necessarily at the Gate of Hell right now, because the 3 palaces had sent the 8 gates to lead the cultivators to fight Yumon. The people from the Gate of Hell were busy collecting souls. If Muyu wanted to deal a heavy blow to the people from the Gate of Hell outside, the best way was to destroy the twins in the Twin Corpse Sea. As long as the twins were destroyed, no matter where the people from the Gate of Hell were in the world of cultivators, the twins in their bodies would resuscitation and start killing each other. The Twin Corpse Sea was in the bottomless abyss below the Naraka Bridge. Muyu and Duke Meng had come out from a hole in the bottomless abyss where the ghost array had been worn down. You can control the corpses. Why didn't you bring them out? Muyu asked. Duke Meng shook his head. After you left, the ghost array automatically recovered. I can't go in. The passage to the Twin Corpse Sea hadn't been repaired yet. Even if he jumped into the abyss, he would be blocked by the ghost array. Okay, come with me. Muyu directly jumped down the Naraka Bridge. After falling for about 100 meters, he arrived at the edge of the ghost array. He condensed the blue spirit energy in his hand again and began to concentrate on splitting it into 1 black and 1 white spirit energy. He was ready to open a large hole in the ghost array. The three tribulation passing experts of the gate of hell weren't present. This time, Duke Ming could use the gate of life and death spell to control the corpses and bring them out of the twin corpse sea. As long as the twins' corpses left the twin corpse sea, without the suppression of the twin corpse sea's yin qi, they would turn into ashes. At that time, all the twins in the Devil Gate's body would awaken. In only an hour, Muyu's black and white spirit energy had swallowed a large hole in the twin corpse sea's ghost array. After swallowing the ghost array, the black and white spirit energy condensed back into pure spirit energy and was collected by Muyu. Now's the time. Muyu had already jumped away. After he stopped destroying the ghost array had begun to gradually recover. This was the land of extreme yin, so the ghost array would recover very quickly. He had to bring all the twins' corpses out before the ghost array recovered. Duke Ming had already made his move. A strange dark green mist emerged from his body and poured into the twin corpse sea. The corpses under his control immediately rushed towards the exit like a tide. "Use your lightning," Duke Ming immediately said. Muyu's hands had already begun to form seals. The powerful lightning pattern instantly turned into a huge lightning net that covered the exit. After the corpses rushed into the ghost array and came into contact with the lightning net, they were immediately turned to ashes. This time, without the protection of the yin qi ghost array, the corpses destroyed by the lightning net couldn't be reassembled. Rip, rip, rip. The powerful lightning pattern destroyed countless twin corpse sea. The entire bottom of the bridge of helplessness was illuminated by blue lightning, crackling and crackling. It was very moving. The people from the gate of hell who had retreated into the ghost pit were still thinking that they had luckily escaped Duke Ming's pursuit. However, they didn't expect that the faces of the people from the gate of hell would suddenly change. The twins in their bodies began to resonate with them, fighting for control of their bodies. What a pity! What a pity! If I had enough time, I would be able to refine these corpses into pure spiritual energy. Muyu felt a little regretful, but it was only a thought. Because there were too many corpses here, the speed at which he separated the black and white spirit energy was too slow. If he wanted to devour so many corpses, he didn't know how long it would take, so he could only give up. Moreover, he also realized that the black and white spirit energy could only be converted into spirit energy after devouring things with cultivation. Devouring corpses that had long lost their cultivation wouldn't increase their spirit energy. No, I can't stay here for too long. Ghost Cold and the other two might already be on their way back. I have to kill all the Japanese who entered the ghost pit before they return, Muyu said in a deep voice. There were many corpses in the sea of Twin Corpse Sea. Although many of the corpses had no cultivation, Duke Ming didn't control these corpses because their twins had already died outside. However, there were at least 10,000 people from the Gate of Hell who were still alive. It would take a long time for these 10,000 Twin Corpse Sea's corpses to crawl out of the small hole. Muyu spent another 15 minutes widening the hole in the ghost array and setting up a powerful lightning pattern in the surroundings. Then, he said, "You stay here and deal with the Twin Corpse Sea. I'll go to the ghost pit and kill all the people from the Gate of Hell." Okay. Duke Ming didn't object to anything. Muyu jumped up and crossed the blood-soaked bridge of helplessness. He entered the Gate of Hell. The Gate of Hell was originally on a barren plain. There were plants that liked the cold. Other than that, there were only rubble and stones. However, there were countless people from the Gate of Hell lying on the plain. These people from the Gate of Hell had died miserably. Their bodies and limbs were scattered all over the place. Duke Ming acted decisively. These people from the Gate of Hell had even had their souls crushed by Duke Ming. Muyu didn't feel any pity for these people from the Gate of Hell who had died miserably. They had also killed countless people in the cultivation world. Now, they were only paying the price. Why isn't Tian Ran here yet? I've already sent her a signal. Muyu pondered. However, time was of the essence. He couldn't waste any time. He had to destroy the people from the Gate of Hell and the Ghost Pit as soon as possible before Ghost Cold returned. He quickly crossed the plain and headed towards the center of the gate of hell. In the center of the plain was a ghost pit with a diameter of 1,000 meters. It was so deep that he couldn't see the bottom. Gloomy ghost fog filled the area. At this moment, the ghost pit was surrounded by a red ghost array. This ghost array was the barrier that blocked Duke Ming. The ghost array of the people from the Gate of Hell was formed with the help of ghost chi. This was completely different from the ghost array that Mu Yu had learned. Therefore, it was very troublesome for Mu Yu to use his own method to break the ghost array. First, he had to deduce the pattern of the ghost array. However, time didn't allow him to do that. Fortunately, he managed to grasp a very strange ability. It was the black and white spirit energy that could devour everything. Green spirit energy appeared in Mu Yu's hand again. The green spirit energy was gradually broken down into black and white spirit energy. The black and white spirit energy attached to the blood-red ghost array. The ghost array immediately began to tremble. It seemed like it wanted to resist the black and white spirit energy. However, the black and white spirit energy was too strange. No matter how strong the ghost array was, it couldn't stop it. Slowly, he had melted a hole big enough for him to enter the ghost boundary. He retracted his black and white spiritual energy and stepped into the ghost pit. The ghost pit was the underground nest of the people from the Gate of Hell. It was very strange. The ghost pit was surrounded by caves. They were like ghost caves. They were of different sizes and shapes. They were scattered all over the place. Some of the larger caves even had doors carved with skulls. It was like a gathering place. Just by looking at it, you could see no less than thousands of caves. They were densely packed together like a hornet's nest. At this time, the entire ghost pit was already filled with whales. Countless Hellgate people roared in anger in the cave and began to resist the souls of the twins that had awakened in their bodies. Many people let out heart-wrenching screams, and it sounded like they were killed by their own twins. The twins of the Gate of Hell had the same cultivation as their main body. Whether or not they could subdue their twins depended on the strength and luck of the people from the Gate of Hell. Sometimes, because the twins devoured some souls, their strength temporarily increased and surpassed the main body. Then, the people from the Gate of Hell could only admit that they were unlucky. However, most of the people from the Gate of Hell had the ability to deal with their twins. After all, they had defeated their twins once. However, the process was very difficult. Even the Ghost Lord, Ghost Cold, found it difficult to deal with his twins. When the twins in their bodies awakened, the only thing they could do was to directly kill them. This time, the twins could not be suppressed. The ghost pit was filled with all kinds of wails and angry shouts. There were even countless people from the Gate of Hell sitting in the air. These people were doing their best to fight against their twins, but they didn't know that a killing god had quietly arrived. Ghost Pit, it just so happens that this is where all of you will be buried. Chapter 1008. The people from the Gate of Hell with the highest cultivation base in the Ghost Pit were only at the combination stage. These people were no match for Mu Yu at all. Mu Yu's sword light was like an unstoppable force. Wherever it went, the people from the Gate of Hell were annihilated. Even their souls couldn't escape. The whole Ghost Pit really became a hell on earth. All the people from the Gate of Hell watched in horror as Mu Yu's sword light slashed towards them, but they couldn't stop it. Not only because they couldn't dodge, but also because the twins in their bodies were rioting, making them like cattle and sheep waiting to be slaughtered. In the blink of an eye, they lost their vitality. How did he get in here? A one-eyed man from the Gate of Hell in red was shocked and angry. His twins had obviously not been destroyed yet. At this time, he was calling for the people from the Gate of Hell who hadn't been resuscitation to retreat. This red-clothed man from the Gate of Hell was at the 9th heavenly layer of the combination stage. All the masters from the Gate of Hell were not here, so he had become the leader of these people from the Gate of Hell. His eyes were full of hatred as he glared at the figure in the air flashing with sword light. Elder ghosts do not speak. Gate Master and the other elders are not here. We are no match for him at all. What should we do now? In a corner deep in the ghost pit, a man from the gate of hell who was at the 8th heavenly layer of the combination stage asked anxiously. As a member of the gate of hell, each of them had killed countless people. When had they ever thought that they would be killed in their own nest one day? The one-eyed old man in red was called Ghosts Do Not Speak. He stared angrily at the murderous figure above. He didn't understand what had happened, nor did he understand why Ghost Lord and the other 3 people at the tribulation stage had disappeared at some point. He thought of something and immediately shouted, "Quick, guard the gate of hell. We can't let the 18 levels of hell suffer any losses." Muyu had already descended from the sky. His massacre started from the highest level of the ghost pit. Mu Ling transformed into a tree and rushed into every ghost cave, killing all the Japanese and old Japanese in one fell swoop. Even their souls were devoured. Not a single Japanese was spared. Level by level, Mu Ling had already reaped the lives of at least 1,000 Japanese soldiers. The soul power of these devils did not escape either. Each and every one of them, turned into the killing power of Mu Ling. Muyu now knew how to distribute the killing power without affecting himself, so he didn't show any mercy when killing the Japanese. At this time, Muyu also heard Ghosts Do Not Speak shout. He felt a little strange. Hearing Ghosts Do Not Speak's tone, it seemed that the 18 levels of hell and the gate of hell were very important to them. What exactly is the gate of hell? And what are the 18 levels of hell? Muyu originally wanted to directly rush up and kill the Ghosts Do Not Speak, who had the highest cultivation. However, when he thought about how he was here to exterminate the sect, he naturally had to destroy the core of the gate of hell. He was not in a hurry. He gradually approached Ghosts Do Not Speak, wanting to see where Ghosts Do Not Speak would retreat to. The Japanese soldiers on the upper level of the ghost pit had already been wiped out. The further Muyu descended, the more he discovered the strength of this ghost pit. This was really a huge ghost pit. There were countless ghost caves on the walls of the pit. Each ghost cave was a cave, and there were countless Japanese soldiers hidden in them. With a slash of his sword, he shattered countless ghost caves, but he still didn't reach the bottom of the ghost pit. Not only that, there were also some skeletal bridges in the ghost pit, connecting one end of the ghost pit to the other. The further down he went, the more ghost bridges there were. Muyu couldn't help but be shocked, because the skeletons used to build the ghost bridges were all real people. The gate of hell had been passed down for countless years, and had killed at least tens of millions of people. How dirty! Muyu destroyed the crisscrossing skeleton bridges that connected the various ghost caves with a single slash of his sword. This kind of sect should have been destroyed long ago, but it was still able to exist in a cultivation world for so long. It was really a malignant tumor of the cultivation world. Ghosts Do Not Speak had already brought the people from the gate of hell who hadn't resuscitation with the twins in their bodies to escape downwards. The ghost caves below were getting fewer and fewer, but the Yin-Chi was getting denser and denser. After diving down for 10,000 meters, all the ghost caves suddenly disappeared, as if they had already reached the bottom of the ghost pit. However, the bottom of the ghost pit wasn't solid ground, but a strange black water that emitted biting cold air. This black water emitted a fishy smell, like an underground river, gurgling and flowing. The surroundings were filled with a gloomy fog, making the scene in front of them look somewhat erratic. At this time, the ghost caves had already disappeared, and there were no more caves. There were black walls in all directions, and ghost fires were floating on the walls. With the help of the green ghost fires, they could barely see their surroundings. At the center of the ghost pit was a huge, flat black stone, like a small island in the black water, about able to accommodate more than 100 people standing on it at the same time. Then, Muyu realized that it wasn't a black stone at all, but a small island made up of countless skeletal bones. Ghosts Do Not Speak, and the others brought the remaining people from the gate of hell out of the ghost pit and landed on the small island. There were some black sailboats docked next to the small island. Ghosts Do Not Speak, and the remaining people from the gate of hell numbered about 200. They had already landed on the small island from the sky, and quickly jumped onto the black ghost boats. These ships were also made of skulls. The color of the skulls was no longer pure white. There were also black and blood-red colors. The eye sockets of each skull flickered with ghostly fire. It was as if the skulls were still alive, causing one's scalp to go numb. Take a boat? Can't we just fly? Muyu was puzzled. The people from the gate of hell lived in the ghost pit that was 10,000 meters deep, and it was naturally the most convenient way to go in and out of the ghost caves on the cliffs. Now that they were at the bottom and their lives were in danger, how could they have the leisure to take a boat? Muyu raised his head and looked at the ghost caves above. When he came down just now, in order to prevent any fish from escaping, he had already used his formation to seal off the sky above the ghost pit. At the same time, he had chased them all the way down. Almost 10,000 people from the gate of hell had been killed by him. The tens of thousands of ghost caves on the cliffs had been destroyed beyond recognition by his sword chi. From time to time, huge rocks would fall down. In addition to the dense ghost chi, he couldn't see the scene above him clearly. He pondered for a moment, and a formation pattern appeared in his hand. Then, another him holding a shadow clone sword appeared in the gloomy ghost fog above, killing the people from the gate of hell. This was an illusion created by him, using his formation to make the 200 or so people from the gate of hell, who had already boarded the ghost boats below, think that he wasn't chasing them. Then, Muyu used the invisibility formation to hide himself, so that ghosts do not speak and the others couldn't see him. Quick, that person hasn't caught up yet. Let's hurry to the gate of hell. Ghosts do not speak shouted. About 30 people boarded a boat, and the panicked people from the gate of hell quickly pushed and shoved each other onto the ghost boat. What was strange was that these people from the gate of hell didn't directly fly onto the boat. Instead, they boarded the boat from the back, just like ordinary people. All the people from the gate of hell traveled by boat, but they didn't use oars to row the boats. There was something like an altar at the back of each boat. The altar wasn't very big, only the size of a wash basin. The altar flickered with a red light. It looked like it had been watered by scarlet blood. The blood flowed along the altar in a strange pattern. At that moment, 2 people from the gate of hell were standing beside the altar. They cut their arms and dripped their blood on the altar. Above the altar, there was a sail connected to the ghost boat. The ghost sail looked like it was made of shroud. As more and more blood flowed on the altar, the ghost sail was gradually dyed red with blood. Then, a strong cold wind floated around, blowing the ghost sail and pushing the ghost boat forward. Do I need to use blood to board the ghost boat? What kind of secret is the gate of hell hiding? Muyu quietly landed on Ghost Island. At that moment, there were more than 10 empty boats around him, but he did not board them. If an empty ghost boat sailed in the air, it would definitely arouse suspicion, not to mention that he needed to sail in such a strange way. He did not want to waste his blood. The 7 ghost boats had already driven away with more than 200 people. It had to be said that the speed of the boats was quite fast. Muyu leaped up without hesitation. Originally, he wanted to fly above the black water and follow these Hellgate people. However, just as he flew above the black water, he suddenly felt an extremely powerful gravitational force coming from the black water. Try to pull him down. Why is the black water here so strange? Muyu finally understood why the people from the gate of hell had boarded the boat after escaping to the bottom of the ghost pit. It was because it was too strenuous to fly along the black water. Muyu was sure that those below the tribulation stage would fall into the black water. Cultivators below the tribulation stage would not be able to resist the huge gravity. Even if Muyu flew above the black water, it was extremely strenuous. He was especially surprised to find that his flying speed was not much faster than the ghost boats, but the ghost boats were getting faster and faster. Not only that, just as he flew above the black water, countless waves began to splash in the water. Then skeleton hands formed by the black water grabbed at him. Who is it? Who's over there? On the last boat, a person from the gate of hell looked warily at the ghost hands that suddenly appeared on the surface of the water in the Inchi. However, he could not see the figure on the water. He immediately became nervous. The ghost hands that emerged from the water were too strange. Muyu dodged left and right. After getting rid of one ghost hand, another one immediately appeared. It was extremely annoying. He had no choice but to speed up and land at the stern of the last ghost boat. With his tribulation stage cultivation, he cast an invisibility array. The two people from the gate of hell at the stern of the boat could not detect him. He quietly flashed to a slightly empty corner of the ghost boat without alerting anyone. The people from the gate of hell on the ghost boat were still looking at the black water behind them. What's wrong? What happened? Ghosts Do Not Speak was on the last ghost boat. He immediately went to the stern of the boat and asked, "Elder, someone seemed to be flying above the weak water just now, but it has disappeared." A person from the gate of hell at the stern of the boat reported. Weak water? The gate of hell actually has weak water. Chapter 1009. Ghosts Do Not Speak stood at the stern, watching Ruo Shui from afar, but Ruo Shui returned to tranquility, as if nothing had happened. It should be that damn person from the life and death door who chased after us, but it's fine now. You should have also noticed the power of Ruo Shui, so he won't chase after us. Ghosts Do Not Speak said angrily. When everyone heard Ghosts Do Not Speak say this, they were slightly relieved. The scene of that person slaughtering the ghost cave made these people from the gate of hell, who used to kill people like scything flax, tremble in fear. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. But is that person really from the life and death door? His cultivation method just now doesn't seem like it. What's hateful is that our crossing calamity stage elders are not here. Otherwise, we would have taught him a lesson. A person from the gate of hell said, "In the past, it was only them who killed other cultivators who would have thought that there would be a killing god who came to the door, and also happened to encounter Ghost Lord and other crossing calamity stage experts who attacked the ghost pit when they were not here, almost destroying the foundation of the gate of hell. None of them knew that their own elders from the gate of hell were lured away." Ghosts Do Not Speak pondered for a moment and said, whether he is from the life and death door or not, in short, he must be in the same group as the person from the gate of hell just now. We must guard the gate of hell and protect the 18 layers of hell. Another person from the gate of hell asked, "Elder, can this Ruo Shui really stop him?" Ghosts Do Not Speak sneered. Even if he is a crossing calamity stage person, it is useless. The longer he flies above the Ruo Shui, the greater the pulling force will be. If he is smart, he will return. Otherwise, he will inevitably sink into the Ruo Shui and become a Ruo Shui in corpse. But we still have a boat there. Don't worry. He doesn't know how to start the boat. Speechless Ghost walked from the back of the ship to the front of the ship. He looked at the Inchi fog in the distance and ordered, "Everyone, hurry up and treat your injuries. This time, no matter what, we have to hold on until Ghost Lord returns." "Yes," everyone from the gate of hell answered and sat down cross-legged, feeling as if they had just survived a calamity. "Ruo Shui, I didn't expect there to be such a thing." Muyu stood in the corner of the boat and pondered. Previously, when they were at Luo Chin Mountain, Master would explain to them about the cultivation world every night, including Ruo Shui. Weak water was a very strange kind of water. This kind of water was incomparably cold. It was formed by soaking in corpses all year round, absorbing corpse chi and yin chi. Anything that came into contact with the weak water would be corroded to nothing, even if they had spiritual power attached to them. Unless it was a powerful magic weapon or some special colding method, it could prevent the corrosion of the weak water. For example, the ghost ship they were on was built with skeletons, the corpses of dead people, resentful spirits, and some very powerful magic weapons. Another example was Xiao Shui. Even if Xiao Shui was struck by lightning, burned, steamed, and soaked in weak water for 100 years, he would not lose a single hair. Weak water was very scary. Even Shui Yumeng could not control it. On weak water, feathers could not float. It was also impossible to fly in the cultivation world. For example, Muyu, who was in the tribulation stage, could only barely fly a short distance. As for people in the body fusion stage, it could not fly at all. This was also the reason why those people from the gate of hell did not fly directly to the ship, even though they were in a critical situation. Instead, they boarded the ship obediently. At this moment, Many people from the gate of hell began to howl in grief. Resuscitation of the twins in their bodies began to resonate and fight with their bodies. Ghosts Do Not Speak had not yet resuscitation of the twins in his body. He looked at the people from the gate of hell who were howling in grief and understood the seriousness of the situation. He immediately said, "How many of the twins are still alive?" Soon, a portion of them began to raise their hands. The 7 ships were not very far away. Out of the 200 people, there were about 180 twins who were still alive. It was because of this that they had the energy to escape here. Otherwise, they would have already been killed by Muyu. Ghosts Do Not Speak's expression was uncertain. He then shouted, "Those who are still alive, listen up. Sacrifice the twins in the weak water immediately." What? Sacrifice the twins? But the twins are very important to us. Yes. Without the twins, it will be difficult for us to do things in the future. The other people from the gate of hell began to speak anxiously. The reason why the people from the gate of hell were so powerful was because of the way they cultivated the twins. After killing the twins, they would refine their souls into their own magic weapons. Fighting against the people from the gate of hell was equivalent to fighting 2 people at the same time. Without the twins, their natural advantage would be gone. Ghosts Do Not Speak angrily shouted, "Do you want to live or wait for the twins to resuscitation to kill you?" The crowd immediately quieted down. After the twins' resuscitation, they would need to settle their personal grudges with the twins. The twins had been killed and enslaved for so many years. Most of them hated the people from the gate of hell who held the initiative. Every person from the gate of hell knew this very well. When fighting against someone with the same strength as them, the probability of survival was 50%. It all depended on luck. Ghost Did Not Speak's own twins were still alive. In order to set an example, he had already summoned the twins. This was a gloomy twin. Its entire body was transparent. It had followed him for so many years. It could be said that its significance was extraordinary. However, in order to live, he could only choose to cut off his wrist. The gloomy ghost energy had already gushed out from Ghost Do Not Speak's body and wrapped around his twin. The twin was gradually filled with ghost energy and turned into a pitch-black color. It was very strange, just like a shadow. "Go and serve the great Guizu." Ghost Do Not Speak gritted his teeth and waved his hand. The twins immediately jumped from the ship and flew above the weak water. Just as his twins flew above the weak water, a whirlpool suddenly formed in the weak water. The whirlpool gradually turned into a strange skull shape. The skull opened its mouth and shot out a water column. The water column turned into a ghost hand and firmly grabbed onto the twins. The twins seemed to have regained their consciousness and began to resist, but they were unable to break free from the shackles of the weak water. They were directly dragged into the skeleton-shaped mouth of the water by the ghostly hands. The skull once again transformed into a whirlpool. The whirlpool slowly stopped spinning and turned back into the lifeless black water. Ghost Do Not Speak's face was somewhat pale. The twins were closely related to them. If something happened to the twins, they would also be greatly injured. He immediately sat down cross-legged and began to adjust his breathing. The other people from the gate of hell saw that the highest cultivation of Ghosts Do Not Speak had already sacrificed his twins to the weak water. Everyone hesitated for a long time. Their eyes revealed a ruthless glint. They began to sacrifice their twins to the weak water. For a moment, the originally calm weak water was filled with various strange skull shapes. The twins of the gate of hell were all dragged into the weak water. Guizu? What is Guizu? Muyu quietly watched the actions of these people from the gate of hell. He was even more curious about the weak water. What was the meaning of sacrifice? The ghost ship moved faster and faster. The people from the gate of hell on the ship took turns to pour their blood into the altar at the stern of the ship to provide power for the ghost ship's voyage. The other people from the gate of hell began to sit cross-legged and adjust. They no longer spoke. Muyu had been looking around. At that moment, the ghost ship seemed to have entered an underground karst cave. She could vaguely see the top of the karst cave above her head. The top of the karst cave was less than 5 meters above the water surface. Green willow the wisps floated on the walls of the karst cave, making the entire journey even more eerie. And it was not that there was nothing in the weak water. Muyu would see some corpses floating on the surface of the weak water from time to time. These corpses looked like they had died not long ago. From their clothes, there were all kinds of sections. There were even some commoners who looked like farmers. Muyu even saw the clothes of Stargate Disciple. These corpses are too strange. Muyu looked at the corpses floating by the side of the ship. The powerful weak water that could corrode everything did not corrode these corpses. These corpses maintained their appearance when they were alive in the weak water. Some people's eyes were wide open. It was obvious that they died with grievances. Some people had 5 finger holes on their foreheads. The blood seemed to have just solidified. Some people's hearts had disappeared from their chests. Their bodies were stained with blood. The weak water did not wash away these bloodstains. They had been dead for at least a few hundred years, but they still looked like they died not long ago. Muyu stared at the corpse of a young man that passed by the ship. With his understanding of life force, he could clearly sense that this young man had been dead for at least 300 years. However, from his appearance, he looked like he had just died less than 2 hours ago. What was this place? The 7 ships continued to drift deeper into the weak water. After about a quarter of an hour, the water in front of them began to flow rapidly. At this time, the ghost ship seemed to be flying on the surface of the water. There was no resistance. Its speed was unbelievably fast. Soon, a light appeared in front of them. It was like the exit of the weak water. The ghost ship they were on began to slide quickly toward the exit. The exit was very narrow. It could only accommodate 1 ghost ship at most. All ghost ships, listen up. Follow behind me. Do not squeeze together. Ghosts Do Not Speak was already standing at the bow of the ship and giving orders to the people on the other ghost ships. The speed of the ghost ship was controlled by the blood on the altar. The more blood there was, the faster the ghost ship would move. Ghost Do Not Speak's ghost ship already had 3 people from the gate of hell bleeding. It was the first to bear the brunt. The 7 ghost ships were controlled by the blood of the people from the gate of hell. There were differences in their speed. Muyu's ghost ship had the most blood. It was moving at the front. At this time, the water in front of them began to pour down. The slope was getting bigger and bigger. It was like a gap in the weak water. At this speed, Muyu felt that the ghost ship would fall out sooner or later. Then there was a splash. The ghost ship was indeed thrown out of the weak water, but did not lose control. In fact, the entire ghost ship was stable without any bumps. In the end, it gradually floated in midair, and their eyes suddenly opened up. Chapter 10:10. The 7 ghost ships stopped in the void. They seemed to have come to a huge karst cave. They could not see the top when they looked up. The diameter of the karst cave was estimated to be more than 1,000 meters. Below the karst cave was the weak water with heavy energy. The weak water flowed slowly below the entire karst cave. Many corpses floated in the weak water. There were also some resentful spirits wandering below the water surface. They seemed to be desperately trying to break free from the weak water. However, the weak water was like a thin film. The thin film was propped up by the resentful spirits. After revealing their ferocious and painful faces, it quickly sank again. The weak water did not flow quietly. Sometimes it would turn into winding water pillars. They were like arms swaying in the air, crisscrossing. When 2 curved water pillars collided with each other, they would directly turn into splashes and fall back into the weak pool at the bottom of the karst cave. Muyu also realized that the 7 ghost ships were not floating in the air. Instead, they were grabbed by the giant ghost hands formed by the weak water and held firmly in the air. Countless wretched willow. The wisps floated in the air of the cave. Some of them were green, while others were red. Upon closer inspection, each of the wisps seemed to be imprisoning a soul that was constantly struggling to break free from the wisps. It was these wisps that lit up the entire cave. In the middle of the weak water was a bone tower built from thousands of bones. This tower had 18 floors, and each floor was at least 500 meters in diameter. The body of the tower was made of countless human bones, but there were cracks of different sizes. These cracks were as big as ordinary windows, and the small ones were as thick as an arm. Through these cracks, one could clearly see that there were countless souls inside. These souls were very strange. The souls on each floor were different. The souls in prison were not just humans. Muyu scanned from afar. He saw that there were souls of humans, demonic beasts, yaman, and even some that only looked like shadows without a body. The souls on each floor seemed to be suffering cruel torture. Black flames burned, knives cut, axes slashed, and some souls had their limbs pierced by black chains and were pulled to shreds. These souls were all being tortured. Their screams filled the entire cave. Their eardrums were like nails scratching a porcelain bowl, sour and unbearable. After each soul was torn or cut into pieces, a strange soul would come from the side, holding a large ladle in its hand, and pour the black weak water on the damaged soul. Then, those souls actually began to slowly recover. Then, Muyu's pupils constricted because these guys holding large ladles and watering tortured souls with weak water were actually flesh-winged horned monsters. Why are there flesh-winged horned monsters here? Muyu had a bad premonition. The people of the Gate of Hell had always had an unclear relationship with the flesh-winged horned monsters. Whether it was the Akatsuki he met in the Moyun Mountain Range, or the people of the Gate of Hell on the Demon Island who wanted to use the strange moon godstones to bring out the Yu clan imprisoned in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, all the signs pointed to the people of the Gate of Hell brewing some kind of conspiracy. Fortunately, Muyu saw that everything in the Bone Pagoda was a soul. Whether it was the flesh-winged horned monsters or the other races, even the shadow-like things, they were all soul bodies. What are the people of the Gate of Hell doing? They actually created such a terrifying bone pagoda. Muyu was shocked. This 18-level bone pagoda must be the 18 levels of hell that the ghosts do not speak said to protect. There were countless bones floating around the bone pagoda. These bones floated in the air and formed a bridge. It was exactly the same structure as the one above the ghost pit. These bridges could only allow one person to pass through. They were very narrow and led to different places. Some directly led to the cliff of the Kar's cave, some led to the weak water below, and some led to the entrance of each level of the bone pagoda. The complex bone bridges intertwined in the air like a huge maze. If one didn't look from above, one wouldn't know which bone bridge led to where. At this time, some bones temporarily floated over and automatically formed a bridge on the side of the ship. Ghosts do not speak, and the others had already disembarked one after another. They carefully stepped on the bridge and quickly walked forward along the bridge. Muyu stayed at the back. When he stepped on the bone bridge, he found that there was a strange force on the bone bridge that resisted the pull of the weak water. It was clear that he couldn't fly at will in this place. Once he flew, he would be pulled down by the strong pulling force of the weak water. He didn't act rashly. He could only follow the remaining people of the Gate of Hell, led by ghosts, do not speak, and walk towards the center of the bone bridge. When they were halfway there, the bone bridge in the air began to change. It gradually surrounded everyone in the middle. Many people of the Gate of Hell looked uneasy. This seemed to be the forbidden area of the Gate of Hell. Ordinary people of the Gate of Hell didn't have the qualifications to come here. For many people of the Gate of Hell, this was the first time they saw such a scene. But ghosts do not speak, who had the highest cultivation, was clearly very familiar with this place. He walked forward with familiarity. When he was halfway there, he shouted, "Stop!" At this time, everyone had already walked for half a quarter of an hour. There was still half a distance to the 18-floor bone pagoda. However, the bone bridge in front of them didn't continue to extend to the 18-floor bone bridge. Ghosts Do Not Speak took a few steps forward. Then he respectfully knelt down on the bone bridge. He kowtowed in the direction of the 18-floor bone pagoda and respectfully said, "Disciple greets Guezu. Disciple greets Guezu." All the people of the Gate of Hell, behind Ghosts Do Not Speak, also knelt down on the bone bridge. It was very spectacular. Muyu was still invisible. He looked around. He was very alert in his heart. because he faintly felt that there seemed to be a very powerful person in this place. His cultivation was unfathomable. He felt a serious threat. Could it be that there is really an old devil in the Dashang stage in the Gate of Hell? Muyu was a little cautious. The Gate of Hell was very strange. In terms of true strength, it was naturally stronger than Stargate. Destroying Stargate wasn't difficult for Muyu. However, the spells of the Gate of Hell had always been very strange. It was much harder to kill than Stargate. He didn't expect that there was such a strange thing hidden under the Gate of Hell. After the people of the Gate of Hell knelt down, all the souls trapped in the 18-floor-bone pagoda suddenly screamed in unison. This time, it was no longer a chaotic scream. It was a rhythmic call. These syllables were high and low. It was as if they were adjusting their intonation. Then, the screams of all the souls seemed to overlap at a certain time, making a sharp and mournful sound. "Why are you disturbing me?" The sound spread to everyone's ears, making them feel a strong impact on their eardrums. Some of the people of the Gate of Hell, with weak cultivation, turned pale after hearing this sound, and blood seeped out of their ears. Ghosts do not speak respectfully and eagerly said, reporting to Guizhou, someone broke into the Gate of Hell and started a massacre. Now, there are only 100 people left in the Gate of Hell. We have no choice but to come to Guizhou and beg for Guizhou's protection. Where's Ghost Cold? Why didn't he guard the Gate of Hell well? The voice formed by the resentful souls once again echoed throughout the cave. This voice was very low and evil. Every tone of the voice was quite terrifying, containing a soul-stirring power. At this moment, a person of the Jindan period from the Gate of Hell couldn't withstand the impact of this voice. He screamed miserably, and a cloud of blood burst out his ears. His eardrums were blown apart by Guizhou's voice. Soon after, this golden core stage ghost sect cultivator's head hit the ground, and his entire body fell off the bone bridge. Splash! This unlucky person of the Gate of Hell fell into the weak water and could no longer make any sound. The other people of the Gate of Hell were shocked. They were also struggling to withstand Guizhou's voice. Listening to Guizhou's voice was like a disaster to them. Those with low cultivation couldn't withstand it at all. Trash shouldn't have come to this place. Guizhou coldly snorted again. Then, another person of the Jindan period from the Gate of Hell's eardrums burst and fell into the weak water. Guizhou didn't seem to care about these two disciples of the Gate of Hell who fell into the weak water. In his eyes, the lives of the people of the Gate of Hell were no different from other cultivators. If they died, they died. They could still become part of the protection of the weak water. All of the ghost sect members hurriedly covered their ears and used their spiritual energy to protect their eardrums. Seeing that two of their companions had actually died an unnatural death, no one dared to complain loudly, afraid that they would accidentally become the third person to fall into the weak water. Ghost Do Not Speak was also quite frightened. This kind of sound was still bearable for him, but the cultivation of the people behind him was lower than him. In this place, they couldn't fly. He couldn't do anything about the two dead people of the Gate of Hell. Reporting to Guizhou, the Gate Master went to kill a person who is said to be Muyu. He hasn't returned yet. The other Tribulation Passing Stage Elders have also left the Gate of Hell. They are acting under the orders of the Sanchon Palace. A Tribulation Passing Stage expert from the Gate of Life and Death took advantage of the situation. We can't stop him at all. Ghosts Do Not Speak quickly explained the situation. A bunch of trash. You can't even stop a Tribulation Passing Stage expert. What's the use of keeping you? The mournful and bitter voice sounded again. All the people of the Gate of Hell lowered their heads and trembled. They didn't dare to refute. Now that the Tribulation Passing Stage experts of the Gate of Hell were not here, how could they resist? Where are your twins? Guizhou asked again. The people of the Gate of Hell had two souls. At this time, all the people of the Gate of Hell only had their own souls left. This was quickly discovered. Ghosts Do Not Speak immediately said, reporting to Guizhou, something has happened to our twins. I don't understand why, but the twins in everyone's bodies are suddenly resuscitation. This subordinate suspects that there is a problem with the Twin Corp Sea. There could be a problem with the Twin Corp Sea? You guys have really disappointed me. A furious aura swept out, and a mournful sound wave once again reverberated in the surroundings. Then, another two people of the Gate of Hell couldn't stand the devastation of Guizu's voice and fell into the weak water. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.